higher IQ than the Birdman. That's the tagline, bro.
Hello, everyone. We are back with another KinoCast. It's been a couple months since we last did one. I don't know. We haven't done one since like November of last year, I think.
Yeah, I think so. It's what was the last one we did even? I forget. I
With
genuinely did.
think a discussion with Anthony or Ann.
Yes, yes, that was the last one that we did. That was a fun stream, but unfortunately today is going to be a horrible stream.
Yeah. Let's wait before we get into that though. Let's just make sure. Let's wait for people to show up, and we can see if your audio is working because
Um,
that's a constant issue I'm running into. I don't know why.
I think the audio sounds pretty good now, from what I've been able to hear.
From you
But
guys, like you can hear yourselves.
yeah, yeah, I can hear you. I can hear. Well, Kelesto say a few things.
Yeah, yeah.
Hello, testing, testing.
Yeah, we
One,
have a
two,
special
three.
guest on tonight's KinoCast stream. It is Kelesto himself. Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself, Kelesto?
Yeah. Hi, I'm a YouTuber. I make videos on media, whether it be games, television, or film, mostly focusing on movies and TV shows. I only actually have one video about games. In addition, I do make response videos as well from time to time. And I have a somewhat roughly like anti-woke skew on some of my stuff if you like that sort of thing. But even if you don't, I do believe the videos are at least make interesting persuasive arguments. So I think even if you aren't a fan of that, you can check it out and at least hear some interesting thoughts. And that's mostly what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. Yeah, and Jan, do you have anything to say since we're starting to get some viewers in and they're saying first KinoCast of the year. Let's fucking go. Yeah, so what do you have to
Brr.
say? What do you have to say for this first KinoCast of the year, Jan?
The N word. No. No. Yeah, no, that was good to be back. Had some extended vacations for me because thankfully, one of the good things about working at a university is that you have fucking. Bro, you guys, by the way, is this like standard across US schools that you get like a month and a bit off over Christmas? Because that was
It,
crazy. That
it's
was like
it's
wild.
3 weeks. It's
Yeah,
three
it's
weeks,
less than a month, but yeah, Christmas is
Yeah.
a
and
very
you
sacred
get,
time for
depending
us.
on
Yeah.
where you go, you could get up to a week for Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Nice. Nice.
where's some special holidays in the UK or wherever you live?
So we usually have bank holidays and then we have Saints Days. So like St. Piran's Day, St. Patrick's Day, St. George's Day, obviously.
Okay.
And we have Christmas. We have Easter off, which I know that you guys don't. So that's pretty nice.
Hmm.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, mostly we just have bank holidays because it's actually it's like a funny thing. I don't know that any other country that I've ever been in has it, but it's pretty much instead of just having employers give you mandated like PTO, you have like a set amount of days and then they set that PTO. So
Okay.
it's pretty
And
neat.
Kalesto, I'm not sure if you see this on the stream, but I made you a little K
Oh,
since you don't have an avatar yet.
yeah. Sorry about. Oh my God. All right.
Bro, it
Yeah.
looks like you're
Thanks.
summoning your. It looks like a Kino stand, dude. Like the fact that it's a K as well.
Oh my God. That's just a happy coincidence.
Yeah.
Jan, you need to change your username with something from a K, and
Yeah.
then we
Oh
can
yeah, yeah.
have
It's
the ultimate hacker.
But then we're gonna be 3Ks, and I talked about that before. Then people will be like, "What do you
it's my
mean? Wait."
it's my stand, Killer K, with the power of duplicity.
We could change it to it's Kino. You want to change your username to start with J, then we could have JJK. You know,
That's true. We
for
could.
Those are my real life initials, by the way. But I don't want to dox myself too much. But let's see. Yeah, everyone seems to be hearing us okay. But I guess I have tomorrow off, so I'm probably going to make an Iron Lung review, Markiplier's new feature length film debt that's been taking movie theaters by
It's
storm.
good. Check
You
it
saw
out.
it?
It's really
Y-
good.
You saw it?
I did. I saw it. I saw it this morning, and I'm gonna see it again on Valentine's Day with my partner.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really good. I recommend it.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed my overall experience too. But there are like some I do have some gripes with it. That I'm hoping to convey in my video. Uh
Is it just out of curiosity? You don't need to spoil, but is it that the plot generally seems to kind of just happen and makes not a lot of sense?
yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah,
You, you,
that is fair. Yeah,
this is Markiplier's first attempt at a movie, and you can very much tell that. However, that
yeah.
simultaneously, I have to say that it it's impressive at the same time because there are certain parts of the film that made me go, "Whoa!" Like this is visually impressive, and it's also like it's just an objective success. It's making a bunch of money at the box office. I think he's setting a new standard
Is it
when it comes to
20 million opening weekend or something like that?
I think
That's
it's
fucking
past
crazy.
30. I think it's past 30
Yeah.
million right now.
Well, so if we're to take Predator Badlands fans at their word, then that's like the runaway hit. That's like better than Endgame. So
Well, it was made on a budget of 3 million, so it is like,
yeah,
yeah, it is
yeah,
really
yeah. No,
impressive.
no, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But
So
I to give you guys like a comparison, Francis Ford Coppola with his masterpiece, his self-funded masterpiece, Megalopolis. It was actually, let's see,
I think it wasn't it like the one of the biggest losses in like recent movie history, at least certainly.
he had a okay, he had box office of 14 million.
120 to 130, 60 million budget. Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh my
Holy shit.
God.
Yeah, I think he sold
He,
his winery for
yeah,
this, right?
he did have to sell his
Yeah,
winery. Like, that is crazy.
I mean, he said I'm pretty sure in an interview he said that he didn't regret it. You know, he lived his life, so I
good
guess
for
good for
him.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah.
but a first time YouTuber, uh, or first time filmmaker YouTuber, made a more profitable film than filmmaking legend Francis Ford Coppola. I think that's
Well,
Lis-
significant.
Listen, we can all have one or two bad movies, right?
that's
For a
yeah. If you're
director,
Ridley
right?
Scott, you have like 5 of them. So
Okay. Ridley
they're all like
Scott
lost
needed
books.
to retire yesterday.
Dude,
I don't know why he's continuing to make films.
I was forced to watch like the first 30 minutes of the House of Gucci the last time I was in Kentucky, and
Oh no.
like dude,
No.
bro, did you know that like Lady Gaga said, "Oh, this was such an emotional role for me"? It's like, bro, you just speak with the most stereotypical Italian accent on fucking planet Earth. What do you mean this is like deeply emotional? Jesus Christ.
Dude, I was watching after watching Gladiator 2, I was genuinely depressed for like for like a day.
Gladiator 2 was an
I
insult.
could
I
not
hated that.
believe that.
Yeah. Same with the Napoleon. Napoleon was really fucking
Oh
bad.
my god, dude, Napoleon. I think
Yeah,
there was like one good shot where there's people like falling through the ice, and I was like, oh,
And
that's
also,
pretty
yeah,
good.
the Ostalism. Well, for me, it was
And then the
also like
rest
a
of the
somewhat.
movie was bad.
Yeah, if you
there's
like
a lot
anything
of
about the Napoleonic Wars, it's like, oh, we have a Napoleon movie. Which fight, like, which battles will we have? Oh, Austerlitz, Borodino, and Waterloo. That's like, damn, daring today, aren't we?
yeah, Ridley Scott is just a senile old man at this point. His first
I think,
film, The
yeah.
Duelists, was a much better Napoleonic
Yes,
movie or movie set during the Napoleonic era than the actual
it's
Napoleon
excellent.
movie.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's excellent, and I recommend it to everyone thoroughly. Also, in chat, makes you wonder if Chris Stuckman will review Iron Lung. Well,
he is
if he
jealous.
will,
He
I'm
is
sure I'm sure it will have a gambling anno loan shark sponsorship. So,
true,
Oh,
true. S- Catered towards kids, of course. Don't forget.
Charles Kids, bro, that was the most fucking like. I just found it. I think it was Nicholas Diori, so that was like, bro. Now that it was like the perfect back-to-back combo, dude. Like now that you've fucking wasted all your money on the gambling app, now you can get the loan shark app to really plus out before your payday.
oh no.
But yeah, I think that's another thing to mention about Iron Lung. I really appreciate how Markiplier didn't have to sell out in order to get his film made. Even if it's flawed, I still very much appreciate the authenticity all throughout. He got in contact with the creator of the game the film is based on and made sure to make it as faithful as possible. And he did his own stunts. He actually went to the hospital uh, because he got too much fake blood in his eye or in his eyes.
That's like a pretty metal injury, I'll be honest.
Yeah, apparently apparently Iron Lung broke a record for most fake blood in a film, and I'll have to check to see if that's
Wow.
actually true. But I with the amount of blood I saw, like I could believe it.
Yeah, it's hard to. Certainly, there's like not a movie that comes to mind. Well, it would have to be like
The
a
Sh-
Tarantino movie, I
The
imagine, surely.
Shining.
Shining could be
Oh
also.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
because the
true,
elevator.
actually. Yeah, because the elevator. Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, but like a
That's
I
full
wonder.
yeah, but like a full ventilation
Oh yeah, it could also be a
vent.
Tarantino movie. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think Kill Bill had some like ridiculous amount of like
Uh,
gallons of fake blood that they had to use.
Hateful Eight as well. I just remember like the ending scene where there's like blood everywhere. I wonder though
Mm.
if they like by fake blood they mean like actual fake blood as opposed to CGI blood. Because if it's CGI blood, then it's surely like there's like movies out there that
No,
like
yeah,
supply
I
True.
think this is like real like fake like
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 real
fake
fake
blood.
blood. Yeah, I know what you
Yeah,
mean.
I'm pretty sure Tarantino's always like insistent on using
Oh yeah,
real
yeah, yeah,
blood than real blood.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
When when I was in school, I actually made my own fake blood. It's not as hard as you might think. You just need to take you can even make edible fake blood. You just need some food dye and like make it into a syrup.
Hmm.
Yeah.
How did that? Make that for Halloween. There you go. You
Yeah.
should make you should make like a cooking video of fake blood for a Halloween special.
I should. Like I'll think about it. But let's get into today's
A
topic.
horrific future.
Yeah, and I if you're if you are expecting some anti-woke content from us tonight, I have some bad news because we have sold out. We have sold out to Big
It's
Woke.
gonna be soy.
Yeah, it's gonna be soy.
Oh,
We're gonna
All right, I'm
we
leaving now. No, I'm kidding.
we've been bought off by Big Woke to debunk the critical drinker in the form of like a lifetime supply of Bud Light, Funko Pops, and we're all getting pumped full of estrogen as we speak. It's
100%. Yeah, I'm already
Yeah,
headed to
gonna
that.
be crazy.
Don't forget the Soylent. Don't forget the what's the performative guy order at Starbucks? What's that one? Performative
Frappuccino.
mail order. No, it's the
Uh
green one. It's mocha
oh,
something
the
surely.
performative male, the
Yeah. A matcha.
matcha,
Yeah,
matcha.
that
Okay.
one. Yeah. We have a
matcha
lifetime supply
latte.
of that as
Yeah,
well. That was personally, I was the most excited about that one.
Yeah. But in all
matcha
serious,
latte, tote bag.
I like getting the pink dragon fruit lemonade drink.
Yeah,
It's pretty tasty.
Oh,
But
the
it,
Starbucks.
yeah, I don't go to Starbucks like,
me neither.
yeah,
Jesus
all that
Christ.
often, but I do like that. But in all seriousness, we are covering a video from Critical Drinker called "Make Fantasy Heroic Again," and because uh I sometimes I for the most part I generally agree with Mr. Drinker's takes, but but here and there he has some takes I don't agree with. And this is one of those videos. I very much disagree with it, and that is a sentiment shared by both my co-hosts. Do you guys want to like
Yes.
elaborate on what you took issue with before he exp we get into the video?
Kelesto, you go first because I think we're in descending order now of people who have opinions on this video.
Okay, yeah, sure. Just my to place my cards up front. I did make a video defending the critical drinker against the Birdman. So, but as I stated at the beginning of that video, I don't 100% agree every time the critical drinker has a take. I didn't agree with like his Blade Runner 2049 review and probably a few others, and just like that I watched this video and I disagreed with it. I would say one of my chief objections, and this is something I've noticed with maybe one or two other instances, is the Critical Drinker, if you Google House of the Dragon, if you see his House of the Dragon content, he has been fairly praiseworthy of the show.
You're cutting out, Kelesto.
We lost him. He's dead. Oh
Kelesto,
no.
Kelesto. No.
HBO assassinated him.
Yeah.
Uh,
If you're watching the stream, Kelesto, just leave and then join again. That should be
yeah.
fine.
I
Uh,
the
He's back.
Oh, did I
He
you're
cut
back.
out?
lives.
You cut out a
Yeah, he
bit.
did.
What was the
You,
last thing I said?
You were.
the last thing you said was he was praiseworthy. He praised House of the Dragon.
Yeah. That's what you
Yeah,
said.
so he praised House of the Dragon, and then it seems as if he's done a 180. He's done this. The only other time I can recall is I think he did this with Dune Part 2, if I'm not mistaken. He sort of seemed very praiseworthy of Dune Part 2 when it came out. And then I believe on several live streams towards the end of the year, he, for 2024, he ended up sort of saying, "Oh, who even remembers Dune Part 2? Who talks about Dune Part 2 anymore?"
Mm.
And it kind of seemed odd for a film he was praiseworthy of. So
Yeah.
that's one of my objections with this video is if you change your mind on a show, that's fine. Absolutely go ahead. But at that point, as a reviewer, I do believe it's on you to tell your audience why specifically you've changed your mind and articulate that as to why you've changed your opinion, what specifically changed, and why your new conclusion is the correct one versus your older take.
Yeah, especially if you have a video praising a show or film, such as he did with House of the Dragon. Because as far
Yeah,
as
and it
I'm
was a
aware, that's
surprise
still
too
up.
for him. Yeah, it was a surprise too for him because after the ending of the original Game of Thrones, and I do believe some of the press material that came out before the show aired its first episode, he sort of seemed very dismissive of it. And then obviously the show came out and he said he did apologize. He did state in his video he was wrong about jumping the gun before the show came out, and he said that he enjoyed it. And to now sort of, I mean, we'll get into it once the video
Yeah,
starts as to what he's saying now about House of the Dragon. It feels a little bit weird. I think he should have
yeah,
at least sort of stated, "Hey, this is why I've changed my mind about my original House of the Dragon takes."
yeah. Like he did for The Boys. He had a video explaining why he's done with it, at least.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
he did have that video. A lot of people said it was a review. It was not a review.
Hmm.
Um,
That's actually how
but
Jan and I. That's actually how
Some
Yan and
known,
I met.
yes, some factions have have mentioned that it might not be a review, to the
you know,
chagrin of certain Spider-Man YouTubers.
yeah, I will say, I know not to get too off topic, but I thought this was a sleight of hand by Birdman in his Critical Drinker video, where he specifically had clips of drinkers' thumbnails, and he included the title for almost all of them. But when he talked about when Critical Drinker reviewed season 4 of The Boys, he didn't include the title
Mhm.
Yeah,
of the video.
which you would.
So
It's pretty silly considering that the review, quote unquote, of season 4 of The Boys mentioned absolutely nothing about season 4 of The Boys. And a lot of people were like, "But your review didn't even have the content in it." It's like, no, dude, he just thinks it's shit. All right, he's allowed to think that. That The Boys is shit in general, anyway.
Yeah,
Right. Is it is it my turn?
I guess so.
is
Yeah.
it is it time to let the hammer drop? Okay, so there's already been a comment that I want to address really quickly, which is someone pointing out that the video in question is him articulating a sentiment of wanting more heroes in fantasy, or heroic, or what I will dub for the purposes of this stream, noble fantasy. Now that is completely fine, and if that's what he said, and he said that in a fashion that I think was made sense and was well argued, I would have no problem with it. In fact, I actually agree with this, the spirit of the sentiment. I do think that we have a lot of grimdark fantasy available. I do think that if you are in the domain of books, we have a lot of noble fantasy available as well. But yeah, for sure. There's been kind of a drought of conventional heroic fantasy, I would say, in movies. Now, when it comes to that, though, the big problem is he seems to conflate a whole bunch of things in this video, and he does concede that this will be a bit of a a bit of a yap sesh, to use some Gen Z terminology. but ultimately, the big takeaway for me is I don't think that it's completely fair to, and we're going to get into the examples, but I think some of his examples are pretty lacking, and I think a lot of his whatchamacallit, I think a lot of his argumentation rests on him trying to do some historical revisionism, not just about House of the Dragon, but Game of Thrones, which any conversation on contemporary fantasy is going to involve Game of Thrones, but I think that he definitely does a disservice in this video, and I think it weakens the argument significantly. And I also think that he makes a very strange point about relatability in characters that I see echoed a lot online, and that I need to fucking die. So we'll talk about it when we get there. But
Yeah.
for those who are regulars, may or may not have also been dropped about one battle after another a few times at that point. And I think it needs to be hammered home once again that it doesn't make a lot of sense when you think about it.
Oh, for what about one battle after another?
Well, so I was gonna keep it as a mystery box, JJ Abrams
Oh, yeah.
style, but
So,
it's
sorry, sorry.
the idea. No, it's fine. The idea that like you need characters to root for in order for a story to be compelling,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
or
That's
like
right.
um, and yeah, just that there's like a big, I think currently in the mimetic zeitgeist, there's like a big conversation between people I would consider to not be read as a fantasy generally, or I would be willing to make a bet on read as a fantasy generally, about why like conventional fantasy stories like Lord of the Rings good because the good guy's good and the bad guy's bad, and stories like Game of Thrones shit because they're morally gray. And Critical Drinker really likes this word nihilistic. Like
Hmm.
him and the like Nerdrotic both like to use that word a lot.
I don't think
I'm not
anyone
uh,
describes themselves as a nihilist, in an like in a
in like an
philosophical
absolute
sense.
sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
If anything, they acknowledge nihilism and uh, they try to give some people a purpose of not
yeah,
becoming nihilistic. Like that was
yeah.
Nietzsche.
Like
That was Nietzsche himself, who
yes,
coined the concept. Like he wasn't a nihilist in the sense that he approved of the worldview. He was just acknowledging the existence of it and how to cope with it.
yeah. Like everyone agrees there is some purpose to life because otherwise, just kill yourself, right? So
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna share my screen real quick before we get into the video because this is something I think should be addressing before we start. Is that it's just different types of fantasy genres. So I'm just gonna move you a little bit, Jan. Uh,
yeah,
yeah. So because there are different types of fantasy subgenres that are wildly different from each other. So we have the low fantasy, and the description for that is relatively low use of fantastical elements grounded in realistic or historical settings. So think Harry Potter, or that could also apply to urban fantasy.
uh,
Setting is modern day with some magical elements. Yes. So could that apply to both, or could like Highlander be more low fantasy?
uh, yeah. So we're getting kind of into the genre talk. Generally, and this is based on my. So ultimately, everyone's going to draw their line differently. To me, like low fantasy would always be something like, well, actually, like Game of Thrones, the TV show, not actually Game of Thrones, the book series, or A Song of Ice and Fire, the book series, but it's again, you have very conventional, like, you know, it's more mundane, for want of a better term. It's there's a lot of exploration of pretty grounded, like thematic and narrative stylings. There's not really many magical and mystical creatures. Maybe there's
Yeah.
like a
Mhm.
magical MacGuffin, right? So like, yeah,
It's on the
um,
periphery. It's on like the
yeah,
White Walker. Like it's all on the
yeah,
periphery. There's not a whole. It's not. Like if you play like I'm most familiar like high fantasy stuff in video games. Where there's
mhm,
all sorts of magic, dragons, different creatures everywhere. You go to some dungeon and pick up some magical sword. Versus with Game of Thrones, it's not really like that.
yeah,
Yeah. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because Drinker seems to disregard dark fantasy and has a high preference for high fantasy. So dark fantasy is no predisposed backdrop fantasy with a bleak aura. while high fantasy is a completely invented world with its own timeline and heavy use of magical elements. So the series that comes to most people's minds is Tolkien's The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings franchise or series.
Yeah. And then you also have like varieties beyond that. Like there's like swords and like people dub like Conan. That would be like sword and sorcery. A lot of people would say, but that would be high fantasy as we understand it generally. Um, I think technically Game of Thrones would still, and like like this definition, I think Game of Thrones could still be high fantasy in the sense that it has a fair amount of magical elements. But again, everyone's mileage will vary. Ultimately, Drinker take like his major objection is to do, I think, with the moral message and character of fantasy, not even necessarily the absence or presence of magical elements. And obviously, like you kind of pointed out, the idea that this should be a world for me to escape to, right? Which
Hmm.
I think is fair. But ultimately, if we're giving like personal definitions, to me, a fantasy would generally be anything that, like, if we go super broad, it could just be anything that has unrealistic or not grounded in reality mechanics in it. So like magic, your magic, you're like maybe even like obviously sci-fi would be different, but as a that's like we have like science fantasy like 40K. There's
Yeah.
just a large plurality of genres, and he seems to specifically be fixating on the morality of fantasy and the moral lessons contained therein. And he has a lot of very strange opinions, I think, on Game of Thrones in particular in that regard. In his
Yeah,
video.
yeah, and moving on from like the fantasy example, I'm going to get into my gripes because I think in my conversations with each of you, I kind of made clear that I'm not the biggest fantasy guy, but I am a fan of Game of Thrones. And I found that in this video, my main gripe of Drinker is that he kind of throws our boy GRRM, George R. R. Martin, under the bus somewhat. Uh,
Mm,
in his what he set out to do with Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire. And
I would
oh,
agree.
go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah, you would agree.
I
Yeah,
was gonna say I would. No, I was just say I would agree. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
But
would. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, but it's besides that, it's just a very weird video from him because it seems to go against what he has said before about people dismissing genres such as superhero movies and superhero fatigue. It's not the characters people are sick of, it's the writers. Yet he doesn't seem to have that same perspective here when it comes to writers having a or wanting to write dark fantasy story or bleaker fantasy stories.
Well, I think with the superhero fatigue, I do watch it and I do watch their content, and sometimes I feel as if they go back and forth about that. Sometimes, where it's on one hand superhero fatigue, it's not superhero fatigue, it's just like bad writing, quality fatigue.
Hmm.
However, then when new projects will come out, sometimes preemptively they will state superhero fatigue has set in, and now at this point, you're just never gonna reach the heights again, or people are already tired of the franchise. So superhero fatigue has set in. It sort of seems a little bit
Yeah.
amorphous to really
Yeah.
pin down, how much.
I
I mean,
think.
I will say certainly I do believe that the audience for the MCU, let's say, has shrunk. I think
Yeah.
demonstrably that's true.
I
Yeah.
think if I was to steelman it the best that I can, that position would probably be superhero fatigue has set in like, but like not in the sense that a lot of people understand, which is people just are bored of superheroes. It's superhero fatigue has set in because all of these superhero movies are written like shit, and that's like that seems to be the unifying like. And I kind of relate to that, right? Because like, if a superhero movie comes out now, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, it's probably gonna be shit,
Yeah,
like realistically.
like what tropes are going to be in it? You can already predict the plot structure right off the bat. It's just like
Well, it could
it
be a variety
yeah.
of things. I mean, nowadays, even with the MCU, I don't even believe they have great action. Even
Yes.
like with
Hmm.
Iron Man 2, as much as I do not like Iron Man 2, there are some very good action sequences in
The fight
Iron Man
against
2,
Whiplash
especially
in the beginning was fun, yeah.
the and then the ending fight sequence where they're in the Japanese garden, Iron Man pulling out his wrist lasers. There's some genuinely impressive stuff there. But
Hmm.
even nowadays, I mean, you take a look at the action and the way they construct scenes, it doesn't even look good.
No, it
Well, I
doesn't.
was the big one that I was always gonna go for is because everyone was like, "Oh, this is like the Avengers, Thunderbolt, good old Thunderbolts and Avengers One, right?" Where when like Steve or Black Widow are fighting, they're keeping an eye out for when there's guns, when there's grenades, when there's anything that they could use to like uh, increase their power level, so to speak. Meanwhile, in fucking Thunderbolts, Yelena just like dispatches a whole room, doesn't pick up a single gun, just kung fu's that shit for some reason, you know?
Yeah.
It's just kind of strange. It's pretty weird that that's like how you would direct that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just a. I also think another reason is that they all feel as though they're written by committee. Uh, like they're written to be somewhat inoffensive.
Hmm.
For mass appeal, and that wasn't necessarily the how like the comics were written, which featured these characters. Like it was intended for certain audiences and not necessarily for everyone. It's not trying to be something it isn't. So the
Yeah,
more you
it
move away,
does.
yeah, the more you move away from the what it actually is, the the less inclined people have to go see
Uh,
more of it in the future.
the term we would employ, I think, is checking boxes. It is going down
Yeah.
a item by item list and trying to make sure, okay, do we have kind of a straight white guy protagonist? Do we have a black woman? Do we have a LGBTQ rep? Do we have
Is there a quip in
a
every
fight
single
scene
scene?
every Yeah, do we have a quip every 20 minutes? Do we have a fight scene every act? Do we have two fight scenes in the final like do we have a fight scene at the start of act 2 and the end of act 2 that'll set up the climax in act 3? Or like an action scene, I guess, not explicitly a fight scene.
Yeah.
And like,
Hmm.
a lot of people might say that like this is like boiling it down a lot, but like you need to understand the difference is in the amount of boiling that you have to do.
Yeah, the
Hmm.
checking boxes, especially in moving since Endgame, in certain cases I do believe has been a tad bit egregious. With the Moon Knight, for example, Moon Knight's like love interest, his partner is more Marlene Orlane,
Mm,
and they ended up replacing her with, I believe her name was Layla, and
yes,
I,
I
I
think so.
believe she was an original character, and she just their dynamic in the comics is fairly interesting,
Hmm.
but with Layla, she kinda just almost takes over, and it ends up just you can clearly I'm pretty sure there's even statements from the creative team, whether it be a writer or showrunner, that talked about, "Well, we needed more somebody Egyptian. We needed more Egyptian characters, so we replaced the fairly significant character in the, Moon Knight mythos," as they would say, or, even going with Echo, which, I made a review about. I genuinely did not see the purpose of that show. It ruined Kingpin. It just meandered a whole bunch, and it sort of, I believe, had some implications for the MCU as to who the first humans were, but it does. It seems like they just dropped that uh, point moving forward, so doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Uh,
let's see, what else can we say? Yeah, I just feel as though arguments against superhero fatigue, which Drinker has raised before, aren't present when it comes to certain subgenres of fantasy in this video. And if you guys have anything else to say, unless you guys have anything else to say, would you guys like to get started?
yeah,
Yeah.
we can kick it off. I'm all right.
All right, here we go. Oh yeah, shit, it's not muted it. Hold on. There we go. Let me know if you hear it.
So, something kinda weird happened to me the other day, and I'm going to need your help hiding the evidence. I was sitting down with my pint of rum to watch the latest episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms when I was hit by this weird realization. I'm actually looking forward to this.
Oh yeah, in case my thoughts on the show aren't clear, I love it. I love it so far.
Very good. Yes.
Yes, yes. I actually read the book, uh, uh, or
Oh, Tale of
yeah,
Duncan Egg. Yeah.
Duncan Egg, back in high school. It's been a while, but it's sort of an anthology story with uh featuring Sir Dunk, this gentleman here, and his little squire Egg. It's revealed very early on in the show that his name isn't simply Egg, but I don't want to spoil it. But
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
the book is uh three tales of their adventures, and I would say, as someone who enjoyed the book, it is a very pretty faithful adaptation of it, which makes sense because GRRM has been heavily involved in the production of it, which is which should be noted as significant because he wasn't involved in the production of the later seasons of Game of Thrones or like the second season of uh, House of Dragons, which many people, including myself, would say is part of the reason why they turned out so bad or
Yeah, I do
did not
Uh,
think
meet
he has
expectations.
beef. He has beef with Ryan Kindell. I do believe he's made like several statements about that. They need to hash that out.
Yeah,
uh, I also do want to add some context that I think will be relevant coming in because House of the Dragon will be brought up at a later point. Uh, the nature of these books, as you said, Duncan Egg or Night of the Seven Kingdoms is just pretty much like an anthology fantasy series about Sir Duncan the Tall and Egg, and like a variety of different adventures. It's a very conventional story. House of the Dragon, or the book that it's based upon, Fire and Blood, is not an anthology series. It is actually, I would compare it to something like the Silmarillion. It is an account of events of the Dance of Dragons from a variety of different, varyingly reliable narrators. So you can already tell, even in their source material, these are striving for very different things. And part of the reason I think that people quibbled with season 2 of House of the Dragon so much, and I think it's fair, but to play devil's advocate slightly, it covers a time period in the book that, and you can blame the showrunners for this, that they wanted to set it up for, I think, is it 3 or 4 seasons they've confirmed for it? Um,
I
they
believe
wanted to,
four. I believe 4 seasons.
yeah, they wanted to stretch it out, and everyone was like, "Oh, why the fuck is Damon just at Harrenhal?" And it's like, well, because Damon doesn't do anything in the books at this point in time.
all
There's
right.
no accounts of what the fuck Damon was
Yeah,
doing.
yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
I see a cool guy I met recently named the British Runner. He says, "Hey guys, I'm the critical glug glug drinker. If you're interested in
Hello.
joining the KinoCast server, I'll DM you an invite. The 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 server, like I have listened to the description, it's just a general server. Hold on, let me just get it ready. But yeah, I love A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. I highly recommend it. If you guys were disappointed by the later seasons of Game of Thrones and want something to replace it or recapture that feeling, I would very much recommend you check this out.
100%.
Yeah.
Big endorse. So we have no problem so far, and we're 15 seconds in. That means that this will be a great video throughout, and I am a hack liar that made all of his arguments up.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
watching a modern fantasy show about a likable, good-natured protagonist on a simple but genuine quest to make something of himself and become a better person, balanced out by a funny and endearing sidekick who seems to want to help him, and a bunch of colourful, interesting characters they run into along the way. It's not some labyrinthine political epic with about 500 POV characters where you need flowcharts and relationship diagrams just to
Mm,
remember who the fuck everyone is.
Mhm.
It's not some relentlessly grim, somber, pretentious tale of warring factions that moves about as fast as a morbidly obese glacier, where every scene is just miserable people skulking around in dark rooms looking pissed off
Yeah,
about
so
something.
already,
I
look,
mean,
Well,
to be fair,
this,
that does kind of describe the last couple seasons of Game of Thrones. But at one point, I would say during the first four seasons, especially, that applies. But it was all good. It was all executed great.
yeah. So I would kind of call this poisoning the well. I I go back and forth on it a little bit because, to be fair to him, he's allowed to just say, oh, it's not these bad things because it is this good thing. But when these bad things happen to be like, and we all know those bad things exist. Like you said, Game of Thrones, latter 4 seasons absolutely would probably match this description. You could probably make this argument about Rings of Power. Well, Rings of Power, it's hard because Rings of Power is just shit. It like avoids classification. I don't know that it's any particular like brand of fantasy, but yeah, it's just very strange to be like, oh, it's not these things that I'm very specifically going to try to argue are bad for the rest of the video. It is, I would say it's a little bit well poisony, and that I was already like, oh, I'm gonna be annoyed by this video when I heard it because
Yeah,
he develops this for one spoiler alert, and I don't think he develops it very well.
I agree. But yeah, do you have anything to say, Kelesto?
Not yet. I mean, it is a bit. See, I'm like, damn, you're starting off strong here. You
Yeah,
going a little bit too hard. I understand that what you watch most recently can definitely color your perception, or it can be weighted more heavily. But as much as the ending of Game of Thrones is bad, when Game of Thrones was at its height, it was genuinely some of the best TV I've watched.
I
So it
agree.
feels a little bit one-sided to just
Uh,
completely come in and
and
sort of phrase it this way, let's say.
and I will invoke this as well. This is evocative of, and this is maybe why it triggered me so much. This is very much harkens to what a lot of people said about Andor,
Oh.
which is very much annoying to me because this is precisely the kind of argumentation and language that you use to dismiss things like Andor out of hand. Because, I don't know if you remember Crimes, Kino.
Crimes and Roman.
We watched like a few. Yeah, we watched like a few videos from a bunch of people who were like on that big old list of like these are like the big 5 OG Star Wars defenders, and they all said this shit about Andor. I was like, oh, maybe this is why I want to blow my brains out because I have PTSD. You see?
Yeah, now that you mention it, yeah, a lot of these arguments could probably carry over to people who, I do. If you don't enjoy Andor stylistically
Mhm.
because of its departure from the conventional formula, that's I do believe that that's okay, I
Yeah.
guess. But to sort of start painting it in once you start going after sort of the quality and oh it's a slog or oh it's just a bunch of people in rooms talking at a certain point you've moved beyond just it's not your vibe, you've moved
Yeah.
into like actual criticisms of the show.
Yeah, for this one, it's always worth highlighting. Just anyone who ever feels inclined to throw the argument of, oh, it's just a bunch of people in a room talking. 12 Angry Men is a movie where 12 people pretty much just talk in a room. It's one of
Reservoir
the best
Dogs.
movies ever made. Reservoir
Reservoir
Dogs,
Dogs,
yeah,
yeah.
Another
that's
great
another good
example.
example. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd say Margin
Hateful Eight.
Call. Margin Call is a
true.
excellent
Yeah.
film. That's just a bunch of
What's
people
the
in a room
what's the
talking.
one? Is it literally just called The Conversation? The one with the guy who plays Fessick in Princess Bride, and there's one other actor in it. Fuck,
I
I should
I
remember
believe
can't
this.
it's
help
the
you out here. I don't
I
know.
believe his conversation, but there's like a Sidney Poitier film where he's just
Yeah,
calling someone uh, trying to solve an emergency. Oh, well, no, no. Another great film is
I'm not
just
trusting Cassini. I fucked it up.
Rear
Go
Window.
on, sorry.
Like that's another great example. Masterpiece.
Yeah.
Takes place in one
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
room. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can go to individual scenes, like the conversation between De Niro and Al Pacino in Heat is like famously, probably, I would say, the
Oh, that's good.
generally considered the best scene in that movie, where there's a lot of other ancillary action to get attached to. So
Glenn Ross. That's another film. Just people,
yeah,
Yes.
talking.
Yes. Yes. It's a
yeah,
play, or it's originally based off of a play.
Which
mhm,
I understand that that might not be everybody's thing, especially if you're
yeah,
more casually just watching
yeah,
movies. You might not care for things like that. I will certainly say it wasn't until I got older. As a kid, obviously, I would not like enjoy those movies at all. So
yeah,
if it's not your vibe, I understand. But usually, if you're moving into actual like substantive criticism, I do believe just saying, oh,
yeah.
a bunch of people in a room talking doesn't really indicate much.
Yeah, and this is kind of
Mhm.
why, as you said, Kelesto, like to me, this is kind of like you're coming on strong, or you're clearly trying to color this a certain way, because he's like, oh, it's not these things that are pretentious and these things that are boring and that move along like a morbidly obese glacier. It's like, well, okay, no story really strives to do that, right? Like they're trying to, you would typically say it's gunning for something a bit more serious, and if it was successful, like I would say is the case in Andor, or like the first season of House of the Dragon, or even the first half of, I would actually say the first 75% of season 2 of House of the Dragon, then it can work perfectly fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe Drinker enjoyed Andor as well.
Yeah, no, I think he's on
Mhm.
record saying he likes it. So
Yeah, he was called a
yeah,
traitor by certain people for liking it.
so he was called a dingbat by certain people.
Yeah, but just off the top of my head, I just want to make a quick recommendation for you guys if you enjoy one room films. It's called What Happened Was 1994. Stars Tom Noonan. Uh, it it's a very obscure film, but I think a lot of people will enjoy it if they like great dialogue. But yeah, let's just get back to the video.
It's not some
Yeah,
laughable DEI instructional video where every single town and village in every part of the world contains the exact same quota of ethnic diversity, so there's absolutely no sense of place or culture anywhere. And
I feel as though he's referencing the Odyssey somewhat
No,
with
I
this.
think he's referencing just like other like Rings of Power, Wheel of
Wheel of
Time,
That's
Time
true.
would be the
The
big one for this.
Witcher.
Yeah, Wheel
Yeah,
of
that's
Yeah.
Time is
true.
I don't, I don't know if you've read Wheel of Time, or fuck, there's
I
like
was
a bigger
given
term for it.
I was given the first book for my birthday, but I never got around to checking it out.
Yeah,
To be
yeah,
clear, I have not seen most of the major fantasy series that have released. I've not seen
fair.
Willow. I've not seen The Wheel of Time. I've not seen Rings of Power. Like I've spared myself from
Yeah.
all this.
I was
From
gonna
all this.
say, call Willow major. All right, let's calm down. Calm. Let's not denigrate the genre quite so heavily. But no, no,
No,
no. With well, yeah, no, I get you. But I was gonna say with Wheel of Time, it was particularly egregious because Wheel of Time has a very clearly, like the world building in Wheel of Time is especially praiseworthy and has very clearly defined
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
culture
I,
actions
I
and
just
like
Yeah,
haven't checked out
I
has
the
a
think
very good
most of
sense of time and
these
place.
Yeah, most of these fantasies, I do believe, have like fairly distinct,
Mhm.
boundaries. Let's say, and I
Yeah,
mean, it is a fully realized world, so there always is, let's say, some osmosis of
yeah,
people moving
yeah,
across, and that's like taken into account. But the thing with these shows is, I mean, man, they go hard on the race swaps, they go
yeah,
hard on the diversity casting,
yeah.
and Game of Thrones for some reason or the other has largely strayed away. I do believe the Valerians in House of the Dragon are race swapped, but from what I've heard, at least from the books, is like they actually do an okay job with it.
It's
I'd still
fine. Yeah,
principally be against race swapping, but obviously
yeah.
to like what degree you do it is also something that
Yeah.
you could take into account. So I on this point I would agree with the
Well,
drinker.
Okay.
yeah, well, I was gonna say, Game of Thrones would be an example of a TV show, even in its worst, like period of a show that completely like eschews this, right? Like when you're in Dawn, you're in
Yeah,
Dawn. When
Dorn,
you're in
yeah.
when you're in the Westerlands, you're in the Westerlands. When you're, in the North, you're in the North. When you're in Essos or Marine or any of these
Yeah,
places,
SOs.
you're or like the fuck the like fields in Essos that the Dothraki are from, like where you are, and there's a very clear sense of place and time and culture.
Yeah.
So yeah, this wouldn't apply to Game of Thrones, but yeah, it would definitely apply to Rings of Power, Wheel of Time. I've not
Hmm.
seen Willow. I'm not going to. So uh,
Yeah.
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 But like, yeah, I would say this is kind of fair that this is a problem in a lot of fantasy currently. That yeah, if every single city in every single region looks like a modern day like major suburb in LA, then it's a little bit strange, right?
Yeah,
Right.
I've always said just if you want your diverse fantasy, there's probably other source material to pick up on, or you could just make one yourself. If
Mhm.
you make your own world, who is anybody to really
Yeah,
take issue on a premise basis? Maybe not an execution basis, but just based off the premise.
Yeah.
you wouldn't be dealing with these
Well,
sorts of criticisms.
ultimately the reality is this is something that you like having a super high like diverse cultural integration is probably something you'd find in sci-fi more than like specifically medieval fantasy, right? Or like urban fantasy, right? If it's like literally just modern day cities, then like yeah, sure, whatever. But in like because the big obstacle is going to be travel, right? It's like how did all of these
Yeah.
people get from point A to point B? Why is there
Well,
this massive
yeah.
movement across
I
the
was just speaking
continent?
more like Avatar: The Last Airbender is a
Also,
pretty
yeah,
good
yeah, yeah,
is a pretty
yeah,
good example.
for
There's no
sure.
white people. It's all Asians. So
Yeah,
you could definitely do that sort of thing. It just seems as if after Game of Thrones, each streamer wanted their own huge fantasy IP, so they just started purchasing up the rights for various IP, and then also just because of the modern sort of paradigms of thinking surrounding casting and projects, that they just sort of had to abide by larger industry trends and what they believe they should be. You have statements from Lauren Hissrich and her casting director for The Witcher that sort of, I believe, made it very explicit that they were going to pursue this sort of direction, even to the detriment of the
Source
narrative source
material.
material,
yeah.
etc. Yeah.
Well, that's why part of the reason they lost Henry Cavill allegedly, right? Like he wasn't happy with the creative decision making on that show.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
after season 2, I imagine he was just like, I have to get out. I mean, season 2, I didn't even enjoy season 1. I have
Oh,
huge criticisms of season 1, but
Have
oh,
you guys have
after
you guys
season 2,
have you guys heard about
yeah.
how dedicated Henry Cavill is to Warhammer 40K so it doesn't turn out like The Witcher?
I have heard, yeah.
I'm
He's
I'm
staying
skeptical. I don't know.
he's staying up like late at night just correcting every single like making sure everything is lore accurate apparently.
I hope. I hope.
I don't envy him the task, considering the lore of 40k disagrees with the lore of 40k of what the lore of 40k is about at this point. But
Hey, unreliable
uh,
unreliable records. All right.
yeah. What I was gonna say with there is like another. I think this is worth pointing out, and it's fair that he's obviously trying to be entertaining here as well. It's fine to be like offhanded and style like stylistically describing something, but the reality is that will still factor into your script. Like the point he's clearly trying to get across is this is good things, it is not bad things, and the video goes on to discuss bad things. So yes, I am cheating a little bit because I've seen this video, but the reality is he's going to try to articulate how modern fantasy and in particular Game of Thrones and Hot D are these things. That is why I would say it's kind of well poisoning.
Mm.
But again, like I'm not married. Like I don't want to be like hard committed. And again, like you know, he can say whatever he wants. It's his video. It's a free country. Well, actually, he's in Scotland, so I'm not sure about that anymore. But
Does he have a freedom of speech
yeah,
license? Is that what you're trying to ask?
bro, he well, actually, the SNP inflated it, so never mind. He'll be
Oh,
fine.
but yeah, let's get back to this.
Where 100-pound
Yeah.
teenage girls can somehow beat the shit out of men twice their size and weight. But more
Uh, I would say that this is kind of like a realistic complaint or just like something to be wary of, like because I feel
I think this is a rabbit hole.
yeah,
We could very
Yeah.
quickly get it.
but
I do kind of agree with him. I do think if you have a smaller character, or I think increasingly as well, there's the mandate of having women in a lot of these combat roles, where
yeah,
in the source material it's very rare. Or think Lord of the Rings, for example.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I was just
or
I was just going to like go off of like Arya because that was probably one of the most
yeah,
egregious examples
yeah,
for me,
yeah.
especially in season like 7, I think,
So
where she kept oh no season it was either season 6 or
it
season
was
7 where
the
she
well, no,
You get
it was
around
for
it.
me it
He's
was
like,
the fight with the wave where like she gets stabbed and almost disemboweled
repeatedly
and then walks
yeah, yeah,
through
yeah.
like a tunnel
Yeah, sure, sure. Yeah.
with like a
That
yeah
bunch of which like actual sewage that could absolutely contaminate the fuck out of a wound. Like yeah,
yeah that ruined
but
her arc for me because like at that point I knew like okay she has plot armor she's going to make it
yeah,
she's
yeah.
not going to die.
yeah. Generally, though, I would agree with the Drinker for the most part that there seems to be an increasing push that we have to have, women be on the front lines in full combat,
Yeah.
when it's either really not there in the source material, or it's really not supported by history at all outside of
Hmm.
the, 1 in a million exception that existed somewhere through history. So I would agree. However, it depends on the context, right? Like Arya, from my, and depending on how she's written in the books, if the show matches that, then, that is like how it's supposed
Well,
to be.
and the other thing I was going to say about this is a lot of times the way it's depicted doesn't make a lot of sense. There's a YouTube channel called Sellsword Arts who makes really good videos about like historical medieval like European martial arts. And the reality is a lot of fantasy gives female characters really shit weapons as well, because it's like, the association says, oh, this kid's going to be like a dagger or something, or like they're going to throw knives or some shit like that. It's like, no, you would like swords are force equalizers. You can like being really big and strong helps you in a sword fight, but it doesn't like help you nearly as much as you would actually think. Like swordsmanship is a lot about posture and structure more than it is about like
Yeah.
strength. So women can absolutely beat men in sword fights. However,
Hmm.
give them a sword or a lance or sorry, like a spear or an actual weapon, not this fucking
Dagger.
dingy knife shit. Yeah, like
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think this is one of those things where it's just so contextually dependent that in the broad
yeah,
sense, I am, if the source material doesn't have it, if somebody is just inserting their beliefs or their wants into something, then I would take issue with that. But, you have something like Into the Badlands, which I don't know if you guys
mhm,
have seen that show,
Into the
but
Badlands. Okay.
I
Was it on
forget the character's
AMC?
name, but yeah, I believe so. But there's an extremely like powerful character who's a woman, and she really kicks a lot of ass. But given how the fighting style is, it's more of a very floaty kung fu, and
mhm,
so in a sense like that, the fighting itself doesn't rely a whole lot on physicality compared to there's a
yeah,
Netflix movie called The Outlaw King, and in that film it gets very like you can see like the
yeah,
armor is like huge and it's weighing these
yeah,
guys down and they're in the trenches, there's mud, it's the endurance matters, and in,
yeah,
in a situation like that the physicality seems to really
yeah,
play a huge factor. So it's one of those things that generally I would agree with the drinker here, but there are like a lot of
yeah.
exceptions, or
It's it's worth drawing the distinction between
I
like
mean, even Reese,
battlefield.
she
Yeah,
just absolutely amps up, and at that point, from the narrative perspective, she's just incredibly strong. So there's all these things that could really factor into it. So
it's always worth drawing the distinction between like dueling to like battlefield combat. These are also very different, and you would probably generally want men for the battlefield combat because
Yeah.
that's where being bigger and heavier will really matter.
Yeah, my main issue is that this is a magical setting. Like, if you're going to have uh like a smaller woman be a combatant, at least give her some like magical weaponry or something to
Mhm.
make it believable that she's on an equal playing field to adult men that can easily kill her.
Well, that's
Yeah.
why Arya worked initially, right? Because she was supposed to be, she wasn't necessarily even a duelist. She was an assassin. She was
Right.
supposed to be killing people in their sleep and shit like that, which, yeah, you could probably, believe it or not, women are probably better assassins because they're more unassuming than men. You're less
element of
on your guard
Yeah.
surprise.
around, yeah, like you're less on your guard around a little girl. Like, in like World War II, it's really interesting. There's a lot of like, obviously, women spies were like a big thing, right? So like
Hmm.
that's another subterfuge is just like something if we're being very broad strokes with it, you'd expect women to be better suited for because you don't anticipate a lot of danger coming from like he said, like a 90-pound girl,
Yeah,
but then she has a
choreography.
knife.
Yeah, choreography could matter a lot here too. I was just saying with Raid 2,
Yeah.
there's a I don't know if the character has a name, but she wields like dual hammers. But the choreography is so good that you don't have any issue buying it because you can clearly tell like her fighting style is just on another level. And so
Mhm.
you don't have any problem, buying into
Yeah.
the fact because A, she has hammers, so if she hits you with that, it's gonna be, fairly
Yeah.
devastating, and B, her movements and just her choreography, her
Yeah.
skill at martial arts is just way superior.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kill
All this to
Bill,
say,
like,
it's one thing to have. Oh, go on.
yeah, the Bride and Kill Bill is another great example. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah,
it's
absolutely.
everything, like with how everything is presented, including her backstory, and her training. It makes sense within the story of how she's able to perform these feats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
and
they
again,
have her trained.
it's one thing to have a trained woman beat a man in a sword, like Arya beat someone in a sword fight. It's another thing to have her hit him with a German suplex. All right, like these are not these are not the same. All right.
Yeah. Let's get back to this. Oh, wait, Green Knight 2301. KinoFlex, if you're interested in Warhammer 40K lore, you may want to check out the Pontius.
Oh yeah,
He
I've
makes
seen.
pretty good. He makes pretty
Yeah,
good
I've
videos. Yeah.
seen 2 of
All
his
right.
videos. They're pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I am new to the community, so I'll try to learn as much as I can.
More than any
Oh
of
yeah,
I
that,
I'm
just I
I'm a much a novice. Okay, I just
why
don't
why
know.
would they? I just don't understand why they would trust a guy called Horus Heresy. All right, were they retarded? Like, what's that?
That was a good one. That's a good one.
feels weirdly optimistic. I mean, it's not to say that everything and everyone in it is good and virtuous, or that nothing bad ever happens to our heroes, but there's an underlying feeling that the show actually has a moral compass, that it knows the difference between good and evil, between hero and villain, and it's not ashamed or self-conscious about any of that. And
Now, wouldn't you guys say that there were like clearly evil characters in Game of Thrones, like Cersei, Euron,
Ramsey.
Joffrey? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Game of Thrones to me sort of encapsulates the entire spectrum of what
Yeah.
humans are capable of. There are extremely sadistic, psychopathic characters. There are extremely virtuous characters. There are characters who most of the time are virtuous, but maybe tested in a specific moment might crumble or succumb. And then
Yep.
there's mostly, sort of dubious characters who can undergo, who perform an act of heroism. It sort of is like the entire gradation of the human, experience. So I don't know if I'd say, oh, okay, I would agree with this sort of depiction, especially because I don't think Game of Thrones is like, oh, we don't know who's good or we don't know who's bad. It's just that it sort of
Yeah.
has a lot of characters and they inhabit the whole spectrum.
So, all right, we are just so we're at DEFCON 3 of me wanting to kill myself. All right, at this
Oh
stage,
my
we're still
god.
fine,
Okay.
but this is a point that's brought up a lot and it's battered down a lot. People have this idea in their head, like Kelesto just articulated very well, that Game of Thrones is this like completely morally gray universe, and they will often cite characters like Tywin Lannister from the show, or if we're going from the books, perhaps Varys would be a good example of that.
Peter Baelish is
That's
another good
not
example.
most characters in that Peter Baelish, yeah.
Yeah.
The Peter Baelish is more. I would actually say he's more in the straight up evil camp. But like, he's also valid. Or like Robert Baratheon, right? You could like have all of these like different morally gray characters. That's not most of characters in Game of Thrones. Many characters in Game of Thrones are very much clear on which side of the moral spectrum they're on. You will be shocked to discover that Joffrey Baratheon is evil and is always portrayed as evil, and everyone denigrates him as evil, and he gets his comeuppance by getting killed. You can say this about Ramsay, even if I didn't really like the manner of his death. Ramsay absolutely gets his comeuppance. Roose Bolton, you could say he was pretty clearly evil.
The
Walder Frey,
phrase. Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
the phrase exactly. Like, many evildoers get killed and punished in Game of Thrones. So this framing is very strange to me, and it's kind of, I feel it's the drinker tipping his hand a little bit to like pretty much just wanting to say, oh, this show understands good and bad, but you see, morally gray fantasy doesn't understand good or bad, which isn't true. This is going to be a book reference, but it's one that I'm very familiar with. Anything by Joe Abercrombie, be it The First Law,
Mm.
The Devils, The Age of Madness, any of those books, they have morally gray characters in them. They also just have straight up evil fucks. Okay, it's pretty much in any set, like it's pretty much in any fantasy setting. Like, this is a very bizarre thing to say about the show, as if like most shows don't understand or don't want to, most fantasy nowadays doesn't want to play that. Like, to be fair, even something like Rings of Power or The Wheel of Time still want to put on that there is a good side and a bad side, or that there's morality. I think it would just be very fucked morality that nobody should agree with. But this is this is very weird.
Yeah, especially
It's
when
just a
they're
strange thing to highlight.
yeah, besides like the very evil characters, there are also just unquestionably good characters
Yeah,
who who remain
Jon Snow.
yeah, Sam,
Yeah,
Brienne of Tarth,
The
Podrick.
Starks in general. Yeah.
Yeah, Starks in
Podrick.
general.
Yeah, Podrick. I would actually say Jamie Lannister, kind of. He is,
Well,
well, he's more closer to the morally fucked up, sure, but morally ambivalent. But
he
I
has
would
an
say,
arc. He has an arc.
I would say on the net he is definitely like his whole thing is he is a good guy trying to be a bad guy, and he does not like it.
Mm. Oberyn
Like
Martell.
he's the good
That's
guy.
another one.
There's the conversation he has with in season 1 with one of Ned Stark's men. Was it Joran? When he's guarding Robert Baratheon, and it's very clear that Jaime Lannister is annoyed that he doesn't get to work for someone like Ned Stark.
Mm.
Like it fucking annoys him that he has to work for like Robert Baratheon or his dad or whoever else.
I mean, I know he has a redemption arc. The scene with him and Brienne of Tarth in the I don't know what you
Bathtub.
would call it,
Second
like the
season.
steam. Yeah,
Yeah.
the steam. That's I would say a very compelling scene. I don't know though. Initially I always thought of him more of as a villainous character, like
Well,
pushing out Bran, and
y-
then
yeah,
also I think killing his cousin. Like he just
the
straight up like killed his
incest
cousin
is
to
yeah.
escape captivity. A very immediate, and it is interesting. Like I think it's a great arc. He loses his hand. He's no
Mhm,
longer like in a position of power, and now he's not the one enacting his will on others. He kind of is now floating in.
mhm.
He's been taken down a peg. What does that do to you? How do you think differently?
Yeah. I guess
Mm.
the thing I would say is like Jamie is I would say he's a villain with a very he's a not even a villain. He is an antagonistic force, and he will do bad things like push come to shove sometimes. But generally, he still has a very strong moral core, and it's very clear that he doesn't like doing the bad, which you could say that's obviously again he's not like Oberyn or like Jon or any of these characters, but he's he has a very clear understanding of good and bad. I would say he has a pretty strong moral thrust, and it makes it difficult for him being in the position that he is.
Yeah. Would y'all be willing to go on to open bar and discuss it with Drinker? Yeah, sure. We discussed this anywhere. We were invited, honestly.
But I don't think we're getting invited in an open bar. I'll be real with you. I don't think he knows we exist.
Not
Yeah, I mean, I
yet.
will say
Not
this
yet.
was funny.
Not yet.
Somebody posted my video, like defending Critical Drinker from the Birdman on a subreddit, and then the whole all the
You're
comments started shitting
racist.
on me.
Disgusting
No,
chud.
in Critical Drinkers subreddit, they didn't they didn't like me on the Critical
Okay.
Drinker subreddit
Oh.
or the Birdman subreddit, which I thought
Why
was
didn't
kind
they
of
like you
funny.
in the Critical Drinker subreddit?
So they were saying, "Oh, this is a bottom feeder channel who's just using other people's drama," and I was like, "Okay."
Well, I
I was like, I
mean,
guess I was like, I made a response video, man. And like, I don't know. It's not that.
It's
It's
not
not
that
that
deep.
deep. And then
Like,
some
like,
people thought that was me, the one who posted it in his subreddit, which is it's not me.
yeah. It's just kind of weird how
he's
people have that sort of reaction when these sort of commentary videos are made to be uh are made for people to interact with. Like what are they expecting from people just sharing their opinions on it when they're the ones sharing their opinions? It's like say you're not allowed to have any counter opinions.
yeah.
It's just weird to me.
Well, yeah, it's like you don't need to, if the person had an opinion, and if you don't like it, that's fine. You can just move. This is the thing with certain nameless groups on the internet. It's like if you don't like what we have to say, you can just disregard our opinion as uninformed and carry on with your day. That's completely okay to do. Like I'm not in your room telling you that Superman was shit while you're watching Superman. Like
I still need to finish that movie.
that's yeah, it is a movie of all time for sure.
Right.
But yeah, kind of getting to like I guess put a bow on what I was trying to like get across. But it's like it has a very clear understanding of good or bad and is not ashamed of it. Yeah, so does a lot of other fantasy. Like even a lot of fantasy that's coming out wants to clearly try to make delineations between good or bad. Where they do it successfully is you know, very much up in the air. But
Yeah.
they absolutely do it. And again, this is spring loading onto a point he's going to make about Game of Thrones that I will find very strange in a bit. So we may get that.
Yeah.
That's when it hit me. We really don't get shows like this anymore. I mean, think about it, right? Out of all the fantasy shows that have come and gone over the past decade, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, The Witcher, Wheel of Time.
I mean, yeah,
Look at the fucking state of it, man. Willow.
This is a pretty funny character design. That actress, by the way, she played Kali in a Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
so-
I
she
know.
was
I
in
know
she was in
a
the
few-
Bone Temple too
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah,
I have a video on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and then I have a video sort of comparing John Walker to Sam Wilson. So I am very familiar with Carly, unfortunately.
Who do you? Damn.
If
Who do you
you're
think she
asking
has?
Oh.
No, I was gonna say, who do you think she has dirt on that she keeps getting roles? it's kind of incredible.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right.
Act. Neither can I. The Rings of Power, One Piece. How many?
Now, One Piece is a very interesting example you chose because that's not what comes to mind when you think of fantasy, at least to me.
Yeah. So I was gonna say that I don't know that a lot of people think of One Piece as fantasy, and second of all, I know this is like this is a surprise tool that'll help us later because they'll go on to say that One Piece actually does do this. But yeah, One Piece would be a show that has a very strong moral core. And then well, this is obviously still in the realm of anime, but and I've not seen all of it. But like Free Run, I understand is a show like this that
Free
has
Run
a
is
very
it is very much like a can be very much described as a high fantasy series.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah, and like has like a very clear moral drive, right? So
Hmm.
so yeah, again, like sure, all of these shows are bad though. And if I was to say what makes them bad, I would not go for they don't understand good and bad. That would be a thing that I would point out, but I would go for things like acting, the script, general continuity with their own pre-existing lore. Like I would go for all of those things before. Well, I don't think they had a very strong moral lesson actually.
Yeah, but
That's like
even
a tertiary concern.
again, I haven't seen most of these shows, but One Piece is a show where there is both good and bad. Like the moral lines are clearly defined.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not
I
really.
would say that this is Drinker speaking specifically to the season 1 of the television show because I don't know that
Yeah.
he's seen actual like the whole because fucking hell, I ain't watching all that shit. I'll be completely honest with you either. But
You're not watching more than 900 episodes of.
yeah,
Badly
it's the,
paced
the fucking Johnny
episodes, yeah.
you know the Johnny Silverhand meme, the fucking I ain't reading all that. I'm happy for you though. Oh, sorry that happened. That's just me with reference to fucking One Piece, bro. Like I don't know, man.
I'll watch it one day. I'll watch it one day, but probably not soon.
Eventually,
You should
yeah.
probably read it, maybe in color if you don't like the black and white coloring. Yeah, I kind of
Yeah,
just
and
like the reason
go.
I just read One Piece when I was younger, and I just collected
I don't really
volumes
read a lot
as I
of.
went.
Yeah.
Yes, fair.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say with fantasy, like to be clear, One Piece would probably still be a fantasy. Like I don't know what else you would call it necessarily because it's it exists in such a wacky world. But yeah, like if Pirates of the Caribbean is fantasy, right? So One Piece would probably be fantasy. It's not what a lot of people would think of when it comes to fantasy, right?
Yeah,
Like-
I guess
Mhm.
Naruto, I guess as well would probably be classified.
Probably would
as,
still qualify.
as
Yeah.
fantasy.
Bleach.
Blue Eye Samurai, that show would probably be fantasy, right? So I would say that that is a good fantasy show that's came out recently.
Yeah.
Shogun wouldn't be fantasy, actually. Shogun has... Listen, as much as there's an Englishman in Japan, that is not fantastical enough to be fantasy. Right?
Let's get back to this.
Many of them actually managed to capture that vital spirit of adventure and excitement that you expect from the fantasy genre. The story of a fledgling hero taking his first uncertain steps into a bigger world.
Okay,
meeting
so we are at DEF CON 4.
Oh, no.
Fantasy
Wait,
does
it
not
doesn't it go?
mean
Wait, it goes down, right? So
fuck.
if you
We're
would
at
say
DEFCON
DefCon
2.
2, yeah,
We're at DEFCON 2.
just making sure.
Yeah, she did it. Yeah, right. Yeah. So fantasy, what he is describing is the hero's journey. This is not fantasy. Fantasy strictly means it's in a fantastical world that isn't our own or that has elements that do not exist in our world. Now, I don't want to be the genre police about this, but Lord of the Rings is a fantasy. It is not the only fantasy out there.
Hmm.
Certainly not now. And I think a lot of people, when they think fantasy, just think, oh, it's like Lord of the Rings. No, absolutely not. In fact, a lot of fantasy isn't. Most fantasy isn't at this point, I would say. So
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
is, I would describe this as a very strange take and one that clearly stems from he just really, which is completely fine, by the way, because the movies are fucking phenomenal. But he really likes Lord of the Rings, and he associates what fantasy is with Lord of the Rings, which is not
could you
necessarily true.
could you not argue that there are certain characters in Game of Thrones who sort of go on the arc that Critical Drinker is
Yeah,
describing?
Jon
Yeah,
Snow.
Like
several,
it's not
several of
every
them.
Jon Snow, right? Like, and then certain characters do go on that journey, and maybe it gets cut a bit short.
Tyrion,
Um,
ki- Tyrion
Yeah,
kind of goes on an arc himself of self-actualization.
yeah, in season
Yeah,
2 especially.
there's like a
Well,
whole bunch of characters going on a whole bunch of different arcs or realizations
yeah.
and journeys, you know?
yeah.
Well, if we're going with like characters you say that had their arcs kind of cut off because they get killed, like Gren and Pip, right? The two men of the Night's Watch that Jon
Mm,
Snow like helps improve. Uh, they certainly had their own little arc in there, you know.
Uh,
Uh,
oh, okay, sure, yeah.
yeah,
yeah. So like, yeah, it's again, and this is just to say he has a. We're imposing a framing of fantasy is this, and fantasy ought to be this, and I don't like when people do that because it means that we can potentially. It's like in that conversation with Anthony that I said, like, yeah, no, not everything has to be a subversive, like, non-conventional genre-bending masterpiece, but it is good to have those. It is fun to have a Song of Ice and Fire, The First Law, and the Dresden Files, right? Like, it's fun to have these works. I don't think that we should be discouraging them from existing or being adapted.
Yeah, I'd
yeah.
agree.
To both summarize and Steelman Drinker's point, uh, would it be fair to say that he finds dark fantasy to be inferior to traditional fantasy, epics, or high fantasy because it tends to be
I
both completely fatalistic and nihilistic?
I don't know if he's made that point yet, but I think he does kind of.
Yeah,
I would actually not say. I would say. I would be kinda. I would say he considers it inferior. I would say he considers it to be a departure from the. Like, he thinks that most stories should be like Lord of the Rings. That's like what he thinks. Most fantasy
okay,
stories should be like Lord of the Rings, and then if you have a non-Lord of the Rings, that's fine. We can have one every now and again, but we can't have like that be the majority because then it
okay,
becomes annoying. And like there is some truth to that, I guess, because it's fair to say if we never get a Lord of the Rings, that'll be then we'd be in the inverse position, right? But
yeah,
again, it's the problem is all those shows he brought up. Um, like Rings of Power, Wheel of Time, The Witcher. These are very different styles of fantasy that they're trying to capture. They're failing because they're bad. But again, that's like the central point. These are bad shows. It has, and if I were to criticize something about them, again, to use the inverse argument from before, I would go for things way before they aren't conventional, right? Being unconventional is far and afield from being their biggest issue.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
would say
Like,
there's probably a difference you could mark out between saying that I prefer one type of fantasy over the other versus, this type of fantasy has various mechanisms, tropes, or narrative constructs that lend to better stories in general than this other type of
Mm.
fantasy. And I do believe he's sort of making the latter criticism, which I would say is a little is more objectionable than just personally saying, hey, this type of fantasy is more my vibe because I'm sure we all have like certain types of genres that are more our vibe than
Yeah.
others.
yeah, like again, like I just had to raise the superhero genre point. It's like saying, oh, like Joker, a film like Joker is not the same as the traditional superhero story. We need more films like the traditional superhero story, like the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, when you can just have both. Yeah, like the reason
Yeah.
Joker 2 was bad was because the writing was bad. It had potential to be good. It's not because it was a inherently bleak or depressing story.
Well, the thing is, again, the drinker's argument fundamentally here is it's an argument for convention. He's saying
Mm.
convention works. We're not doing convention. We should start doing convention again because convention works. To which my argument is that could be something we're doing, but fundamentally, what we really should be doing is writing better stories, and that has nothing to do with convention.
Yeah.
It's a good now. The thing that you would say, of course, then is if you're brand new, you should probably stick to what works, right? But if you're someone like George R.R. Martin, you can probably get away with straying away from convention, right? Because and a lot of people want to contend this nowadays. George R.R. Martin is one of the fucking greatest writers to ever live. All
I
right,
agree. Yeah, and
let's be clear about this. Like,
but yeah,
I have a question for you, John.
yeah,
Would you say I haven't read the book, so I can't say. However, I've seen like certain people's discussions on this, and a lot of people are, a sentiment that I see quite often is he would be if he finished the story. Like without finishing the story, it's difficult to sort
yeah.
of definitively state
well,
that. What's your
d-
opinion on that?
does wait
S-
before you answer, does Drinker bring up Martin? Like what point does he bring him up in his video? I forget.
he
Like
pretty
during
much
the
he pretty much just says that he needs to finish Winds of Winter and shit. But to be clear, what I would say about George R. R. Martin is that is true with respect to A Song of Ice and Fire. He's also written a shit ton of other stuff that is all really good.
hmm
So him getting through the and like Robert Jordan didn't finish Wheel of Time. Robert Jordan is considered an excellent author. So I think that argument is one that is often made out of ignorance of how a lot of fans. Master and Commander never got finished. I doubt that. Shit, I can't remember the guy's name. But sorry, Far Side of the World never got finished. But whoever the author was, everyone would consider Far Side of the World to be really good.
Frank Herbert didn't finish the Dune franchise before his
Yeah.
death. Like his son had to finish it. Kentaro
Uh,
Miura, like if we're going into manga, he didn't finish Berserk. He passed away, unfortunately.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, Kentaro Miura would be considered one of the greatest writers ever, and rightly so, because Berserk is excellent. So,
hmm
um, and the new Berserk is still pretty good.
Yeah.
I like the new chapters.
Yeah. It's been a hot minute since I last read anything within like any of the books, but my I would say like the biggest problem with George R. R. Martin wasn't like the themes he was trying to explore. It's more so he introduced a lot of plot elements, and it's really difficult to find a way to wrap them all up in two books. Because remember, he wants to wrap up this entire franchise up in 7 books, and
Mhm.
he's already written 5. So
Uh,
I would say that's the difficult part right there.
yeah. Oh, and as an aside, all of the arguments about what we said about Game of Thrones, the show, absolutely fail even harder against the Song of Ice and Fire, the books, because again, this is an argument made out of ignorance. People say it's never going to get finished because it's this subversive, non-conventional fantasy, and that means that there's
Mm,
no satisfying way it could end. So, first of all, there is again, First Law has an ending. Some people would call it unsatisfying, but it was a grim ending that I think works fantastically. And the second thing is, A Song of Ice and Fire is a very conventional story. All right, it has subversion in it, but on its face, it has a lot of conventional fantasy stuff. You do have very big prophecies. You do have conventional heroic chivalrous knights in it. You do have your blackguard knights. You do have your big, scheming political factions. You have all of the conventional fantasy stuff in there. The only difference is occasionally a main character gets killed, pretty much. That's like the big distinction that a lot of people note about it. But like Jon Snow's arc in A Song of Ice and Fire, very conventional. That is
yeah,
true. Robert Jordan didn't take 15 years to write one book, which is fucking incredible considering The Wheel of Time has very descriptive prose and
yeah,
it can take you 4 pages to get through a horse ride.
true. Thank you, Jasper Lane, for the $5 super chat. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, since we're on Martin, I guess I should ask you guys this. Do you think it was ultimately a mistake for him to agree for his show to be made without having written all of the other books already?
Yes.
I can't exactly speak to this because I would need to know the timeline. Like, how many books did he have down?
That's a good
He
question. We'd have
was
to know.
so the show started being produced before Dance of Dragons. I'm pretty sure Dance with Dragons. I'm pretty sure because Dance with Dragons came out 2014, if I remember.
Okay. Books came out. The show. Shit. Uh, A Dance with Dragons was the only A Song of Ice and Fire novel published during the 8 season run of the HBO show Game of Thrones. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
Uh,
like
So
at the time he like decided to like greenlight the show. You know what I mean?
so he would have been 4 books in by that point, so a little over halfway.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that. Yeah, that's a little. If he had 5 down, I would say I think he's okay. But 4, I think that's cutting it.
Which
Yeah.
is well, season 5 is the one where because every single season up until season 5 was broadly inspired by Game of Thrones, Clash of Kings, Feast for Crows, and all of them. And then Dance with Dragons came out same time that the show was running, and Dance with Dragons had a lot of the Dawn plotline in it, and the Dawn plotline in Dance with Dragons is, needless to say, infinitely superior than to the one in the show. So.
You didn't like the iconic line from one of the Sand Snakes in season 5?
No,
Yeah.
I did not like you want a good girl, but you need bad pussy. I think that was you know what you know what I heard that and I was like, okay, this doesn't quite measure up to love is the death of duty and duty is the death of love. That's this is a little, yeah, I don't know about this one.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, needless to say, the show suffered in quality greatly after season 4, since
Hmm.
they weren't operating under Martin's writing as a guide. They still used plot, several of his ideas, but they didn't write it out convincingly. So they just felt they completely they didn't churn out correctly as he intended. So now I'm thinking, what is he going to do to change like this reaction? Like, does it get to him on a personal level? Because I think it would. Like he feels
I
pressure.
think it well, I think it would, and I think it's partly because like in the books so it's known that like some of the plot lines were still adapted from his potential conclusion. This would probably include Daenerys going mad, for example.
Hmm.
In the books, this is absolutely way more heavily foreshadowed. Daenerys is still well-meaning in the books, but she is much more determined, and on the whole, I'm like the child of prophecy. This is my like destiny. She's pretty willing to tread over corpses to get like much more so than she was depicted in the show.
Yeah, the most you
Oh, in the
got.
books.
Yeah, in the books, yeah.
Yeah, the most you
Oh,
got with
okay.
the
I'll
show.
be honest. I wasn't ever the biggest fan of Daenerys' character.
Yeah, well,
In
yeah,
the
but
show, yeah, she's really bad. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but the most we got of her character, I think crazy, would be in from my memory season 7 where she was like being ruthless
Yeah.
by burning the Tarleys alive. But even
The
then
Yeah.
Tarleys, yeah.
you could argue that even then you could
Yeah,
argue
you
that
can make the argument. Yeah.
yeah, that she had to because they didn't give her any other choice. But
Yeah.
that no in no way justifies her going and
Nuking
burning
a city.
civilians. Yeah, exactly.
If no fucking
Yeah, that
actually
was
no
that was.
fucking.
Yeah, I always thought it was funny that like people were naming their kids Daenerys, and then
No,
that
no, no, it's
Well,
even
season 7
worse. Hey, listen,
came
shout
out.
outs to all the
Drogon.
retards who named their kids Khaleesi. All right, pour one out to all those motherfuckers. Jesus.
I have ne Yeah, I think they just had their names legally changed after that finale.
You gotta
There's no
change
way.
that. You
There's
gotta
no
change
You
way.
gotta you gotta do that for sure. Yeah. My name is the commemoration to the fucking biggest piece of shit to ever air on fucking television.
Yeah. But I'm really happy to just to
Yeah,
get
I'm
back
good to
to
keep
like
going.
a scene or a Night of Seven Kingdoms. I'm really excited that George is is offering more input onto the show, especially with unwritten original material he hasn't published. I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
no, for sure.
yeah. But let's get
That
back.
said, George, you motherfucker, why are we writing this? We should be writing Winds of Winter.
True.
Challenges and
This
dangers
motherfucker's doing
along the
everything except that, I swear to God. He's doing side quests. Anyway, yeah, sorry, Karen.
No,
way,
you're good.
fighting and ultimately triumphing against evil forces and becoming a stronger person because of it.
Well, that could describe the finale, but of Game of Thrones, but that was bad. It's not
Uh,
necessarily the
well,
best.
yeah, I was gonna say, this might be a hot take, but everything he just said, even compre season 8, Game of Thrones satisfies. Jon Snow does defeat the big bad at the end.
Yeah, the Night King is defeated.
Well,
Yeah, the Night
yeah,
King
isn't
is
that Arya
defeated.
though?
Yes. Well, no, I meant he defeats Daenerys as the big bad because
Oh yeah, yeah,
Dragon
okay.
Hitler
Hmm.
is the final boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Arya defeats the Night
But
King. Jon defeats Daenerys.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Don't think about it. But like again, that's actually a good example, and I feel that this is like the poison in the eye of his entire point is yeah, you can have a story that has a morally sound conclusion, evil is defeated, and still have it be the same with the Night King, evil was defeated, and still have it be unsatisfying because of the elements at play.
Hmm.
So like again, this is why I wouldn't gun for moral character as like what makes a story work, you know?
Yeah, because D&D gave kind of delivered on the having giving a more conventional fantasy story because they ran out of ideas, and
Yeah.
it sucked. It
Yeah,
didn't
it's
have
like
any. It didn't have any of the complexity or consistent writing from the previous season, so it just fell out of
Mhm.
place.
Yeah, and like he's appealing here, I think, also to like a single character structure. He like made the dig earlier about like having a plurality of POVs, but like the reality is you can do this with a plurality of POVs. You can have a character who has an arc that they go on and have it now. And like Game of Thrones has a fair amount of POVs. It doesn't have that many POVs, all right, or at least Song of Ice and Fire, sorry, doesn't have that many POVs. Like it has like 20 maybe tops. That's across 5 different books. So like
Okay.
Not too many, I'm guessing. And be honest with yourself here, there's something deeply wrong with the fantasy genre today, isn't there? For all the smart writing that's trying so desperately hard to subvert your expectations, the self-aware characters and the flashy special effects, there's something kind of empty and unsatisfying about modern fantasy. It just doesn't move you on that deeper
okay, so
emotional level.
pause for a second. So like this is subjective as fuck. I
Source
like
my
don't know how
crack
to
pipe.
respond to this.
Source my
Yeah.
crack
Well,
pipe.
I
I would
so
just.
I mean, yeah, you can go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead.
Okay, so I was just gonna say, he's like when he says fantasy, obviously there's like a whole bunch of things you could say, like, oh, is he talking about, here's all these great books released recently. He's what I think he's saying is really this current batch of TV shows that we have more so than anything else,
Yeah,
and
but
he's
even
really
then,
referencing The
I would just say
Well,
Witcher,
I would just
Rings
say
of
the industry,
Power,
like
Wheel of
industry
Time.
standards or just writing standards in general, is on the decline. I want to just like single
uh,
out a particular genre.
well, the thing that throws me off about it as well is he starts it off with smart writing. It's like, so wait, if we're being genuine and the writing is smart and it's trying to subvert your expectations and is perhaps succeeding, then what's the problem, right? He would say the problem is there's something missing from it, and it would be that like sense of wonder that I guess is inspired in him by stories like Lord of the Rings. And that's, to be clear, that's super okay to feel. There's no problem with feeling your feelings, but the issue is I don't know that that's a worthwhile prescription for how to improve the fantasy genre. Is it needs to make me feel these things. It's like, well, hang on, there's people like me who really like feeling the other things though. So now
Well,
what, you know?
yeah, if we asked, I'm pretty sure he'd say he's speaking about like the current batch of fantasy
Yeah.
shows by
Oh,
stream.
for
And
sure.
in that sense, like obviously, if you say fantasy, right, we even talked about how broad the genre of fantasy is right now, right? There's all
Mhm.
probably a whole bunch of things we're not even talking about right now that qualify in the fantasy genre that
Mm.
are most likely very good, that we're just not aware of. So someone could take issue with the wording and say, well, hey, you haven't considered this project, this other project going on right now, and therefore it's a pretty it's a false statement, let's say. I would just say based off like I do watch his content. I'm pretty sure he's just going to be talking about the current batch of
Oh,
streaming
yeah.
like big fantasy shows.
Yeah. And to be clear, my issue isn't with him talking about them. My problem is like, why did we say, like, why did we tacitly concede that some of them have smart writing, right? Like, because at that point, it sounds like what he's saying isn't this show is bad. It's this show has like some subjective qualia that I like missing. Now, of course, that wouldn't apply to any of like Rings of Power because there's nothing to like in those shows, right? But if he's talking about that, I feel this is him like pre-arming like House of the Dragon, like the shoe dropping at one point in the video. And for me, it's like, okay, well, so you're saying even if it's well written, you still wouldn't like it. And at that point, it's okay, well, maybe, you know, these shows clearly aren't for you, which you're conceding in this video because you're saying this show is for you, but then the show that is for you was written by the same guy who wrote the other shit. So it's like, it's just weird. Like I don't really understand why he's belaboring this so much in the sense of like, yeah, I like it when it's this. It's like, okay, that's cool, but that doesn't necessarily make it good or bad, you know?
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't inspire you or fire your imagination like it's supposed to. And so I thought I might as well.
Getting back to like my Steelman point, regarding nihilism and fatalism, d- something I find to be the most frequent like recurring theme with Grinker's content is that he very much tries to find positive portrayals of masculinity and chivalry. So, do you think that plays a part as to why he may not be a fan of stories that delve into nihilism or fatalism because it 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 doesn't necessarily have the masculine characters winning in the end, or is that
I
kind of a
mean,
reach?
the thing about it though is when you take a look at Game of Thrones, there's a lot of really compelling, competent, stoic, interesting men
Yeah.
and how they move through the world and the actions they take. And and then if we really want to boil it down, getting in their armor, wielding a sword, and kicking ass, like that exists, a lot. The story of Rob's rebellion, with Ned Stark and Robert Baratheon, I do
Yeah.
believe they occupy those roles. And even if they're not necessarily heroic, they still have a lot of those classic traits, like Jamie Lannister at the beginning, right? Like he's obviously
Yeah.
not like heroic, but he is, I would say he's masculine. He's a
Mm.
womanizer. He's an excellent fighter. He's got a certain like charm about him. So for sure, when it comes to Game of Thrones, I don't really. It's not as straightforward. Like it's not super straightforward. It's not super conventional. But in terms of having like really interesting, character like male characters with what you're talking about, Kino, I do believe Game of Thrones fits that role. You could probably, however, make the argument for other fantasy. I haven't seen a lot of the shows, but for The Witcher, I outside of like Henry himself, and even then, we all know why he left. So, and I'm assuming
Uh,
based off what I've heard with like stuff like Rings of Power or other stuff,
okay.
Yeah.
I need to. So I was gonna say this anyway, but now someone said something in chat and it's triggered DEFCON 1.
Oh
All
no,
right.
what happened?
So, and most of them died. So that's kind of the big thing that I was gonna say. I think Drinker is convinced that the arc is definitely lessened or cheapened, like in terms of its effect, if the character ends up dying. To which I would say the character, if they're good, doesn't need to win or triumph or be rewarded for their goodness to matter or for it to be an effective lesson. You don't need Jon Snow to necessarily survive or win or succeed for his like good traits and characteristics to be worthwhile. A lot of people make this point with Ned Stark, that Ned Stark was a good, honorable man, and it resulted in him getting his head cut off. That is true. It resulted in him getting his head cut off. It also resulted in the downfall of the Lannisters.
That's a great
Yeah, I mean,
point. That's a great point.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Like, well, sorry. The one thing I was going to say, the entire point is the deeds of the deeds of men can transcend their lives, and doing like Braveheart, he dies at the end. So I guess everything he did didn't matter. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, it's like a lack of a like to go back to the masculinity or just chivalry point. It's showing a world without like a masculine figure or chivalrous figure uh fixing the
Mhm.
world's problems, and this is the result of that, you could say.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
that's to me what was super compelling about Game of Thrones was that it wasn't necessarily conventional. It did take the idea of, hey, you might be a really skilled soldier, but you're there out on the front lines in a battle. It's not necessarily guaranteed that you win. It's not guaranteed that
uh,
you can run the odds every time and come out of it. And to me, that's what made like Ned Stark's character like just sort of like etched in my memory is that the Game of Thrones just did something so different up until what I saw at that point. And it,
yeah,
it definitely, to me makes a lot of, Game of Thrones especially interesting is that it's not all about, oh, this character is good, therefore he's going to do X, X, and S. There is genuine fear. There is genuine tension. These
Yeah.
decisions can end up with reverberating consequences that travel the entire region of Westeros and then ultimately circle back around to you. And to me, is what makes it so interesting and makes it even more compelling. Versus, I mean, how many very conventional, very safe stories are there where there's not much stakes, you don't really feel compelled at all, the good guy wins at the end, and he rides off to the sunset, and you watch it and then you just forget about it, right?
yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah.
yeah, with it helps that there are actual stakes. Like when Robb Stark died in the Red Wedding, people love that scene despite being devastated by it emotionally, is because
Mhm.
it didn't feel out it didn't feel cheap or out of nowhere. It was actually built up
Yeah,
Yeah,
to
I,
being
I mean, I'll
a justifiable
remember that
result.
moment. I was watching the show with my father, and we were like binging Game of Thrones, so we would watch like 2 episodes a night. However, the first episode we ended up watching, spoilers by the way, I guess, was the Red Wedding, and it was so I was so visceral that we didn't watch the second episode. We're just like, you know what, that's enough for like tonight,
Yeah, that'd
So
be
yeah,
extremely
we're just like,
awkward to
yeah. And
we'll watch the next episode tomorrow. And like that moment watching it with my dad was, it was incredibly like memorable.
yeah. Yeah, and like a lot of people forget, like, and this is just the reality of having some of the more nuanced characters in Game of Thrones, like, can be extremely multifaceted. Like Robb Stark, a lot of people remember, like, saying, oh, Robb Stark tried to do the right thing and he died for it. It's like, well, okay, Robb Stark did a really, really noble thing in the sense that he was willing to hold a lot of lines. Like, he wasn't going to cross the phrase, right? He wasn't gonna go behind Walter's back and say, "Hey, I'm gonna marry your daughter, but I'll be fucking my side piece," realistically, which he could have done. He didn't want to cross the line with the Karstarks of being like, we're gonna let them like this murder go unpunished, right? But at the same time, a lot of the time he pursued things that he wanted for his own, like, sense of like person or self or desire, like, the again, his love affair, his lover, right? Like, he wanted to pick his lover in a world where it's pretty well known that you don't do that, and for good reason. And then he was one of the many things that ended up costing him his life, you know
Yeah.
Yeah.
along with going against Roose Bolton one too many times, with executing the Karstarks, or Karstark senior. But like, yeah, it's saying that, but then, you would say, oh, he died for nothing. It's like, no, he didn't. He didn't die for nothing.
Yeah.
In the books especially, he didn't die for nothing because of Lady Stoneheart and everything and all that. But like, yeah, it's just not. Again, I guess, to return to the Steelman though, what you said about the drinker's like view of like the whole nihilism thing, I think
Yeah.
like he would say that ultimately he wants that to be he wants the protagonist to train, to struggle, to persevere, to overcome, and to be rewarded for his efforts.
So
And he
sufficient
thinks that
power
if that doesn't,
fantasy.
yeah, not even just like a power fantasy, but just like the idea of like goodness will be rewarded, right? Like your efforts will be rewarded. They won't just be thrown back in your face by an uncaring world. And it's like, but in Game of Thrones, Rob's efforts were rewarded. He won a shit ton of battles. He had Rob like Tywin on the on the back foot for a lot of those engagements. Tywin had to like stoop to a low that ended up being one of the many things that caused his downfall and like the
Hmm.
downfall of his house. So like, yeah,
And
yeah,
it's also not real life. There's plenty of times where people really try, they try to set up things well, and you just get bad luck.
yeah,
Like that happens all the like. It's a part of the world, and it's a part of the style that Game of Thrones inhabits. And I don't believe there's anything wrong with it, on a premise basis. And it really depends on it depends on your execution. Sorry, excuse me. And I do believe that for a pretty good while, Game of Thrones did it well, at least for the show. I'm speaking about the show.
Yeah,
yeah, agreed.
as I've gotten older, I've appreciated stories that aren't simply wish fulfillment, but instead explore certain thoughts or uh how should I say this? Certain ideas we think into our heads that we shouldn't do that are actually explored and realistically follows the conclusion of acting out those thoughts or actions that we may think of. And to me that's one of the most important like
Yeah,
purposes of escapism, like like delivering showing you or giving you a glimpse of what would happen if you act out on these certain thoughts or ugly actions, so you don't feel compelled to want to try them in real life, because you were given a pretty convincing picture of what would happen if you do.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
yeah,
also,
and
I mean, I like conventional stuff too. I like the you try harder and you get rewarded for it. If you want that sort of show, Solo Leveling is, I think, a pretty good example of that. So I
Ooh,
mean,
okay.
there's like it very much is like super straightforward. Like it is literally like I'm leveling up type of deal. But it's very good and sort of
Yeah,
seems like what Critical Drinker would like a lot. And I thoroughly enjoy the show as well.
yeah.
yeah.
Also, also
I was
Kelesto.
gonna.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jen.
No, no, you go. I'll go after. I was gonna address a comment real quick.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm not gonna spoil this, Kalesto, but if the Red Wedding left such a massive impression on you, I would advise you read the books, because there is the show. There's a certain character who survives the Red Wedding. I'm not gonna say who, and the show did not continue that's their storyline. So I'm curious to see
Yeah,
if you do end up reading the book. I'm curious to see what you think about about this change.
yeah. I think I already name dropped them, but it's fine. I think you missed it. Uh, but yeah, I was just gonna. Jasper Lane said, I think Drinker is just being fatigued about how so many stories these days, good and bad, are so nihilistic, especially the bad ones. Since it's his job to watch the bad ones, it hits harder. Um, so I would really need a definition of what like he means by nihilistic. If he means nihilistic as in like the ultimate message is like, oh, no good or bad, like nothing matters, I would just say that most things are not nihilistic. That is
Or
just not
misery,
true.
or would it be
Yeah.
misery porn as
Misery
the other
porn. Yeah,
one?
like misery
Yeah.
porn.
I
Like
Yeah.
like
if
the
I
going on. You go.
if I had to take a shot at it, I believe he's probably referencing, several like high profile reviews um Critical Drinker has done in which he sort of talks about this, whether it be the new Indiana Jones film I've heard has a lot of this,
Hmm.
or The
Dial of
Last
Destiny.
Jedi being a
Yeah.
Dial of Destiny, or like The Last Jedi being a famous example. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong about this, but I believe he sort of has like a similar point with Deckard in Blade Runner 2049. I think
Yeah.
I've heard him made like some similar point about that. Again,
He
I would say you can call out maybe a general trend, but then when you delve into like specific projects or specific titles, you should evaluate them based off
Well,
what the specific one project you're calling out is, and he is like he has very specific titles he's referencing to here, I would say.
Well, for me, this would be like maybe me being a pedant, but like, and this is, I guess, something, you could call this a semantic or a nitpick thing, but I would then just say I don't think he's using nihilism correctly, because like a lot of, if what he means by nihilism is like the idea that like, oh, like Luke and Deckard became like shitty old men, right? Like ultimately, then sure, but like that's not really nihilistic. Like The Last Jedi is many things. Nihilistic is not one of them. The Last Jedi tries to evoke feelings of hope and aspirations of like a greater continuation to come. This is the same case of Rings of Power. Rings of Power isn't nihilistic. They're just very poorly mishandled, and in terms of like House of the Dragon isn't nihilistic either. So like the thing I would just, I guess the reproach would then be, I don't know that you should be using this word.
I guess like dark, bleak. I mean, obviously the ending of Last Jedi tries to be hopeful and stuff. I mean, for me, it was kind of just like, oh, I guess.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Yeah, like this would be different to him saying like it evokes feelings of nihilism in you because like why would you give a fuck about this, right? In which case I could actually probably agree with him.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Sure. That like if he's saying what it means by it's nihilistic is like this makes me feel nihilistic because like it just makes me feel like nothing matters. But that's obviously not what the story's going for, right? Yeah. And like you could, again, many people. Look, there are many Last Jedi defenders still out there, right? We still not rooted all of them out, but like
you guys talked to one, right?
We did, yeah. We listen. We talked to Last Jedi apologists, all right? And it's fine. They're human.
I mean, I will too. I will too.
Yeah, I was gonna say
they're making the very strong prediction that in a few years' time, they're going to be as well regarded as the original trilogy. It's only a matter of time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they've got like 1 year, right, until it's a decade.
I was gonna say, yeah.
it's about time. Like they should be starting to take root at this point.
TikTok.
I'm gonna be honest, doesn't really seem like it's going that direction.
The half-life on it is like it's intolerable, but like this is like my problem, I guess, also. But like I would really need to know what he means by this like nihilism word he keeps throwing around, because if he means like, oh, this like evokes feelings of nihilism in me because I don't give a fuck about the story, that's fine. But I think that like he often calls the stories themselves nihilistic, and like yeah, they ain't. They're bad, but they're not nihilistic.
Yeah, well, let's get back to it.
Talk about it today. This isn't.
Wow, it's almost been 2 hours, and we're just now getting to the 3-minute mark.
Some
crazy.
Specific review.
Jesus.
We have become the EFAP.
Of any particular show, but it's more like a general stream of consciousness on the fantasy genre. So if I wander all over the place and go off on mad tangents, well, I don't apologize for any of it. Anyway, let us begin this journey together, shall we? If I had to pick out patient zero for all of this current day malaise, it would have to be Game of Thrones. Now don't get me wrong here, it was definitely a phenomenon that redefined what fantasy could be, and at its peak it delivered some of the most shocking and unforgettable moments in television history. It was a show where plot armor seemingly didn't exist, where no one...
I find it very
funny
until
last
that
season.
Sorry. I was gonna say I find it really funny that he uses that scene from the Battle of the Bastards where Jon Snow is fucking charged headlong by cavalry and he survives because of plot armor.
That's true.
I mean, 1 in a million shot.
Yeah, the 1 in a million shot. Yeah, the whole. This was the Jon Snow maneuver actually. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, like so. I don't know that a lot. So this might be a hot take, and you guys might feel differently about this. I don't know that a lot of modern fantasy is trying to be Game of Thrones. Like,
I feel as though they're trying to modernize it, like it with contemporary politics. But
that's what I would say. They're trying to modernize it.
Yeah, I don't think they're trying to. They're not putting as much thought into fantasy as George R.R. Martin is.
Yeah, and like I was gonna say, like Wheel of Time isn't trying to be like Game of Thrones. Rings of Power isn't trying to be like Game of Thrones by any measure other than success, right? Like I don't know that Rings of Power is trying to be this this super unconventional, subversive story. It like in many ways, again, it's just like that story is just incoherent. But I don't know that it's trying to be super subversive or anything.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
anything, the on like the sort of more modernization woke aspect, I think Game of Thrones is probably doing the best. Like it seems to have like succumbed the least to a lot of the,
Yeah,
modern forces that Critical Drinker would take
yeah.
issue with, as well as I would. So I guess on that point, it's kind of like Game of Thrones is actually the strongest.
Well, I was gonna
Mm.
say season 1 to 4 of Game of Thrones was like famous for having, they had a fair amount of like certainly black and gay characters in it, and nobody seemed horrifically bothered by Loras or Oberyn, So
Yeah, but again, Game of Thrones is very good at like setting up the
yeah,
world.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
Essos and Dorne and like
yeah,
all these other shows. They just as we've mentioned before, they just kind of
yeah,
throw everyone in one basket.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, they changed the lore. They like just fundamentally want to change the lore. At this
yeah.
point, their complaints have been very long standing. I still remember like I didn't watch Game of Thrones when it came out, but you could find like articles and stuff still where people are like complaining about the lack of diversity or in Game of Thrones and other things.
Yeah.
Well, it's sorry, Ultrasound 77 in chat. Rings of Power certainly was trying to be Game of Thrones. What are the similarities between Rings of
Well, let
Power
me actually look
and Game
this
of
up.
Thrones, even surface level?
Rings of
Like, what are even the
Power.
surface level comparisons between them on a story level?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I have to watch Rings of Power. I
I
watched
haven't
it
watched it.
with my family, and my family and I are huge Lord of the Rings fans. Like every year, we watch the extended trilogy around
Mhm.
holiday time, so we're all huge fans.
Hell
My
yeah.
parents and I
Okay.
literally like it was midway through the first episode. My dad just got up. He's like, "I'm done with this shit," and walked away.
Yeah.
He walked
This
upstairs,
Yeah.
is
and
this is
he wasn't aware of anything about Rings of
yeah.
Power before.
This is what the Rings of Power subreddit is saying after a quick Google search. Too much
That
of
has
a
a
Game of
subreddit.
Thrones too much of a Game
Okay.
of Thrones influence. I mean, we had to have a containment for
Well,
these
what's the
guys. Failed wizard,
if
failed wizard.
yeah, I was gonna say if failed wizard on Reddit with 28 upvotes said it, then I mean that's basically the word of God.
Actually, it's 20 upvotes. Get it right. Well, yeah,
Oh,
like
my bad.
let's see.
Yeah, I don't know.
The Lord of
I
the
could
Rings.
understand like they want like a big show, like they want like a big, massive fantasy show, but like to me, that's kind of where I haven't seen. Again, I need to see more. I need to watch Rings of Power
Yeah,
actually, but from what I've heard, I don't think people's complaint is like, oh, it's too dark. I think usually the complaint is it's shit, and
It's
then
shit.
it's
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they've also like modified the lore where they have like
Yeah,
Galadriel being a girl boss, and
yeah.
they have like what I thought was like really funny was I don't know what the character's name is, but she was like a big part of the first season, and then she just disappeared in the second season, and it was just like what?
Oh, was it the woman from fuck that
Yeah,
little
like
hamlet?
yeah,
The
the activist lady, whatever. I don't know.
Bronwyn, I
Yeah, they're
think.
just like stupid like stuff like that. People are like
Yeah.
even the writing, like the right, like I heard what was it? Why does a ship float whereas a stone sinks? And they start talking. And I was like, what the hell?
The fuck does that even mean, bro?
yeah. But
Have we seen We Love Cold War? I have not, but
yeah. Oh, wait, have you guys seen
yeah.
Have you guys seen War of the Rohirrim? Lord of the Rings?
Yes, I have. It's not very
I
good
did
at
not
all.
like it. I did not like it. It was well
I
animated. It was fucking boring.
I
Yeah.
yeah, I haven't seen it. I'm planning on watching it because I kind of have to for one of my videos. Spoiler, maybe potentially giving a hint, but I mean, I've seen like it's such a blatant insert. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, you're gonna
Yeah.
try. You're gonna fall asleep at several points. I promise you.
Okay, well,
Uh,
I'll probably try to have a Red Bull or something before then.
yeah. Let's
Or
get
sorry,
back to
White Monster, White Monster.
White Monster. Yeah.
Our plot
White
armor
Monster, yeah,
seemingly
let's do it.
didn't exist, where no
Oh yeah. Well, actually, since uh it was brought up, what do you guys think? Do you guys think season 6 of Game of Thrones is overrated?
I think season 6 is shit. Yeah.
I
Okay,
see
so
it.
this is where I'm gonna differ. Oh, sorry. Go ahead,
Okay.
Kino.
Yeah, because I see when people praise it, it's mainly for reveals, I feel. Like Hodor, Jon being revealed as a Targaryen. Uh, let's see. Uh, what else happened in that season? Yeah, well, Battle of the Bastards, obviously.
Battle of Bastards, the blowing up the Sept of Baelor
Oh yeah,
was a
like
big one.
Cersei, like outsmarting
Yeah.
everyone. Yeah, but
which
I
she didn't. Her plan was retarded.
I need to
I
rewatch it to get a better opinion.
Yeah, this is the issue is I remember enjoying it when I watched it, and I only really started to have problems with Game of Thrones in season 7. But I could
Yeah.
there could be like actual like
Uh,
legitimate writing issues that
oh,
take root beforehand that I mean, obviously the Sand Snakes, we talked
Season
about that.
7 was
But
when
like
the writing problems started becoming the most egregious. Well, season 5
well,
was, but because of the bad acting and
season
dialogue.
7, season 7 is when they started teleporting everywhere. Like
oh
that
yeah,
Fast
was
yeah,
travel,
that was one
yeah.
of the big that
yeah.
was one of the big things
No,
too. But I
yeah,
enjoyed season 6.
and just like the whole okay, like we need a Suicide Squad with the most important person in the in the entirety
On
of
it, yeah.
Westeros on this team risking his life for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
I think like season 6 also brought back the Hound, so that was another like
They
I think season 6 had a lot of hype moments in Aura that completely tone deafed everyone to how retarded everything was.
Yeah,
mhm.
that could
Like
be the case. I am a sucker for aura farming for sure.
the entire Battle of the Bastards, the battle strategy basically makes no sense. It was like it was season 8 episode 3 before season 8 episode 3, and
Okay.
when I watched it, and to be clear, Kalesa, when I watched it, I really liked it as well. So I don't think that you're
Yeah.
alone in that one. But I
Well,
think when you go back to it with an understanding of like how the series ended up, you'll find that a lot of the bad practices started in
yeah.
season 6.
Yeah, that could certainly be the case. I've heard a lot of people like make those arguments. It's just man, I have so many things to watch and I have like a huge back catalog
I
and
wouldn't bother rewatching it. If you like it, you
it's
like it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's one like especially with battles and all these sorts of things, I sort of take like a mixed approach. Like obviously there needs to be some semblance of sense, but also I do think like sometimes I'll see videos where people get really anal about like battle breakdowns or like they pause frame on
Mhm.
like every
Yeah.
scene and they're
Yeah.
like, well, this doesn't make sense and you should swing the other way. And I
Yeah.
sort of relate it to like UFC fights. Like if you see like a really technically sound UFC fight, it can be like the most boring thing in the world versus
Mhm.
like if you just have two guys who just don't care anymore and they just start like throwing wild haymakers, it can be like very interesting, like very exciting and visceral. So I kind of think you have to sometimes balance those approaches. So sometimes people have like complaints of battles, and I can't really resonate with it because
Mhm.
I think do I
Well,
have to learn entire like battle strategy and like
yeah.
CQB tactics to critique the show? I don't think you should have
Yeah,
to.
and to be clear, none of the thing in the Battle of the Bastards is anywhere near as egregious as like putting your trebuchets in front of your walls, right? Like
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah. Although I will say, there have been like examples of like pretty like egregious stuff. I would say so. I'm
Yeah.
not going to say that I completely discount that
mhm,
either.
yeah,
Hey,
fair enough.
Kino, Jan, and chat. Hope you're all doing well. Hey, Jeremy.
Hello.
But yeah.
What about me, bro? What the hell? No, I'm just
Hey,
Yeah, I was gonna.
what
Yeah.
what is this? Some sort of Game of Thrones squad? Exactly. Yeah. We should we should just do like a Game of Thrones retrospective stream of the
We
show.
should. It'd be
Yeah, we
fun.
should.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Exist, where
Muted
no
it.
one, no matter how good or innocent, was safe, where death came suddenly and without warning or meaning, where heroism wasn't always rewarded and brutality wasn't always punished, where it
Okay.
didn't really matter.
Sorry to already, but again, we've kind of been over this. Death came without meaning. I don't know. That depends on what you mean by
well.
meaning.
So
Yeah.
oh man, I forget. I think Drago, right? I think that would probably be
Khal
uh
Drogo. Yeah.
Khal Drogo. Sorry, my
Mm.
bad. I apologize. Like that.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I really liked. Like I like the idea of yeah, hey, just so you know, like by the way, in this time, like it was like a simple infection could kill you. Like
Yeah.
that sort of thing. I really enjoyed that aspect
Yeah.
of the show. So I think
Uh-huh.
that's probably what he's like. That's like that where it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. But
there
the
was no like meaning behind it. Like he just like
well.
kind of got the hit.
Yeah, but the necessary rejoinder to that would be Khal Drogo's death is what facilitated the scene with Daenerys and the pyre and the
Well,
awakening
yeah,
of the
yeah.
dragons.
I'm not saying like I think he just like like the act of dying.
Uh-huh.
Like not the
Yeah, 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 yeah,
consequences
yeah,
that
yeah.
stem from your death. Like just like were you sacrificing yourself in a
Mhm.
last like charge to save your loved one, or did you just get too cocky in a fight and then like weeks
Yeah.
later died of an infection? Like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, and then my that's the thing, but then like my rejoinder to him would be I think that's a myopic way to view death and like characters exiting the story, if you know what I mean. Like
I think it's a
you
descriptive.
need
I
to
think
think
he's just
like
being
bigger than that.
descriptive. I just think he's being descriptive
Sure,
with the death. I don't think he's
sure,
saying like,
maybe,
"Oh,
yeah.
it's bad." I think he's just like some of the deaths I think were like, "Man, like this is not a good death. Like you just kind of died like
Hmm.
for no reason, you know?"
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, again, like the show did kill off more characters that didn't die in the book. I would just say like keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see. Let's go back to this.
If you were good or bad, all that mattered was how well you played the game. It took fantasy right out of its comfort zone and placed it into something far more dangerous and
So,
exciting. And it came
I think this is a fixation on the like King's Landing, Tyrion Lannister season 2 plot line. Like the whole how all that matters is how well you play the game. How much does the Game of Thrones at King's Landing matter to Jon Snow? You know, he's like one of, I would argue he's like the deuteragonist if we're being, that cut and dry with it.
Arya doesn't even
Like,
really care about. She just cares about getting
yeah,
revenge. The list.
yeah, Arya wants revenge. Daenerys wants the throne. Like
Bran doesn't care.
of the
Like Bran's probably
yeah,
the most like selfless person in the series.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like ultimately, like of the main characters, the only one to whom the Game of Thrones really matters is like Tyrion, and Daenerys, pretty much. And there's obviously a lot of ancillary characters who care about the political goings on in King's Landing, but like, do you think Jaime gives that much to a fuck about who sits on the Iron Throne? Like,
Uh,
not really.
no. He wants a better person to serve, but
Yeah,
on the King's Guard.
yeah.
But
Yeah, and he wants
not
to be a
really.
better person himself as well, right? Same with like Brienne, the Hound, like, his famous line, "Fuck the king."
Yeah. Does Sansa really care?
Like,
Like I'm trying to remember. Like, because my
She just wants
for the
perspective,
most,
independence.
she just wants
Well,
to
she
survive.
might, right? Because she wants independence, right? So
Yes.
like it might
yeah,
matter
yeah,
who's on the throne.
Sansa wants to get out, and she wants to like be her own person
Yeah.
ultimately.
I would just say, like, yeah, but even then, I would just say, like, she just cares about surviving, not necessarily, like the
Yeah,
politics. She
yeah,
just wants out of it.
yeah, yeah, and like I think there's an over fixation on the political aspect of Game of Thrones. Like the Game of Thrones at King's Landing is maybe 30% of the show, if that. Like, yeah,
Guys, what about if we establish a democracy? See, that's another example of the show just like introducing contemporary shit
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that ruined my immersion.
Oh, it's good because it's just for democracy.
Yeah.
My allegiance is to the republic, to democracy.
uh,
came along at just the right time, where traditional clean-cut fantasy was beginning to look stale, old-fashioned and played out, and people were hungry for something new that could shake it all up. Game of
is that really true?
I can't say.
I
I don't know.
it
What else came
depends. If
out?
you
What else
mean
came out during that time?
well, for television, I mean, it depends. There wasn't a lot of televised fantasy. Game of Thrones was kind of the first big one. In terms of novels, I would say absolutely not. Again, Malazan was out, First Law was out, Song of
Yeah, I
Ice and
think with
Fire,
books it
first four
becomes
books
really
were out.
tricky. Yeah. So
Like,
yeah, that's why I said I
yeah,
don't know. Yeah.
yeah. This is like a weird. Again, I would say this is like a truism. This sounds about right because in many people's like memory hole, it's Game of Thrones, and before that was Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that
But
I
like
was
there
gonna say that's
wasn't,
like exactly my like
yeah,
recollection.
yeah, like there wasn't a lot of televised fantasy that was super popular at that
Yeah.
time,
I mean,
as
I
far
guess
as I
Percy
remember.
Jackson, books wise.
Percy
Percy
Jackson books
Jackson,
wise, yeah, for sure.
the
Well,
books,
you had
yeah.
Aragon, right? The like
Born,
inheritance
yeah,
cycle. Like
yeah,
you had a lot of books coming out. I guess Harry Potter would be the other one.
Yeah.
yeah. You
Like
had
we said,
games,
that
Yeah,
Skyrim.
that's more so
Skyrim,
urban
yeah,
fantasy.
obviously huge.
yeah,
There's a game called Kingdom of Amalur's Reckoning that I kind of liked.
What about
yeah.
Dungeons of
Um,
Dragons? Let's just, will we like acknowledge that? It's pretty
Oh,
much
they were
fantasy.
that's always been a thing, right?
Dungeons of Dragons was well. The thing is, Dungeons and Dragons was kind of niche until like 2014 with Fifth Edition. Uh, like it was a niche hobby, and then it became, you know, the biggest thing since sliced bread, I guess. But I'm actually curious. Fantasy shows release between 2000. And when did Game of Thrones come out? 2010?
2011.
11.
2011.
Damn.
Yeah, there was Merlin, obviously. That's like a big British one.
The
But
Magicians,
other than that,
is
there
that one?
was. I
Is
I
that one?
think so, but I've never seen that one. Yeah, Teen Wolf, yeah, like see what I mean? These aren't like I came out. I guess Supernatural would be fantasy question mark.
True. Well,
But
it's
like
like
yeah,
there's a horror franchise. That's the thing.
yeah, yeah. No, that's what I mean.
Okay.
Like there's
Mhm.
in terms of a conventional fantasy show between like that time period, I can literally think of Merlin, and then Google is giving me uh Lost Girl, Teen Wolf, uh Legend of the Seeker, and Once, which I have
Hmm.
never fucking seen any of those. So like, to be clear, Game of Thrones popularized televised fantasy. Televised fantasy wasn't a thing before Game of Thrones. Not really.
Hmm. Okay. Now I'm just thinking of like what other fantasy series should be adapted. Have either of you guys read The Assassin's Apprentice?
Yes, it's really good.
Yeah, that should be
I don't really
that
read.
should be
Not to
that.
sound like an idiot, but
No, well, most people haven't, so that's fine. Like, but that would make for a good
That'd be
television
fun, yeah.
adaptation. Yeah. Well,
And
yeah, let's
that's
get
written by a woman, so it would be the gangbusters.
dun dun
ooh.
dun. But let's
Thrones,
get going.
packed as it was with swearing and violence and sex, that was less about magic and dragons and more about politics and intrigue and moral complexity, felt like an act of rebellion. It was smart, it was irreverent, it was unpredictable, and it threw all the conventions of the genre aside and did its own thing, god damn it. But here's the problem. Looking back on it now, I kind of hate what it did to the genre. It was born from the idea that people are still people no matter the setting, so even if you throw them into a fantasy world of monsters and magic and ancient prophecies and all the other tropes of the genre, they're not really going to rise to the occasion, they're going to pull everything down to their base level. It wasn't about
Okay,
aspirations to
so I completely don't understand this point. I have actually just no clue what he means by this. Again, there's a lot of heroic characters in in a Game of Thrones.
I
It's very strange.
Yeah.
If I had to sort of guess, I mean, you have pointed it out, John, several times, which is, are the other fantasy shows, like the other contemporary fantasy shows that he's referencing, trying to be Game of Thrones, and like, is there a problem that they're overly bleak? My issues with Witcher wasn't that like it's bleak, but my issues with Witcher were kind of some of the narrative and story decisions that they made. However, yeah, it kind of seems like he's just talking about Game of Thrones, kind of, because like, I mean,
Yeah,
spoiler alert, he kind of says additionally what else he means. If I had to guess, I do definitely think Game of Thrones is one of those shows where, like there's quite a few characters who learn that just like being heroic and trying to do what's right isn't ideal, and like they suffer the consequences. And meanwhile, like
yeah.
very like dubious, scheming, conniving characters, have a lot of
Peter
wins,
Baelish, yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
or early on. And he might just like personally not like that, but I kind of like that. I do enjoy the
Oh,
first quote by
well,
Cersei. In the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die. Or chaos is a ladder. Like I definitely enjoyed those elements. So I can't, like, I can kind of see what he's saying, but this is kind of like a very, very personal vibes
yeah,
based argument, I'd say.
yeah. Like the reason that it's throwing me for a loop is because he's like saying that people in general will bring down like the potential of this fantastical universe through to like their own base level instead of rising to the occasion. And it's like, well, the reality is like,
I mean, that's
like
it.
you said,
Isn't that what?
people are just people, but like some people will rise to the occasion, some
Yeah, that's
people
what they're
will
actively
descend.
doing. That's what they're actively
Yeah,
doing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Again, it's like some people will rise, some people will fall, and the people that fall might have some initial benefits from them, like from them being willing to stoop to lows that most people wouldn't stoop to. But like again, that doesn't mean that that is the only option, in that universe. Um, in terms of that doing it to fantasy again, like what is a this is what I mean when people like compare like Rings of Power. What is like a major like death that surprised you in Rings of Power? Like, where is this in Rings
I
of
haven't
Power?
seen the
Where,
show.
well, that's what I mean. Like, where's the Ned Stark beheading? You know, is that Halbrand revealing himself? Like, I don't know, man. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
again.
sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, he seems to be approaching this from a very cynical perspective on like humans in general, which I think is not really his intention. But like to me, it comes across as like paradoxically, it comes across incredibly cynical to be like, oh yeah, the problem with modern fantasy is that it treats humans as humans, and they're not really allowed to be anything more than that. Where it's like, well, some humans are pretty fucking cool, man. You know, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
you
also
know,
there's people actively working against you, right? Like sometimes it's not going to matter. Like let's say you have a really heroic character and he's training and he's doing all the right things and he's trying to be there for his people and he's making right decisions, and then he doesn't realize that somebody secretly hated him the entire time and slipped poison in his drink and now he's dead, right? Like
yeah.
that's like part of, like, it's not always like you're not just progressing in isolation. There's a whole like other world out there of people having their own machinations, their own plans, and that's sort of where some of the strengths of Game of Thrones were.
Jasper said the biggest death in Rings of Power was the death of Lord of the Rings franchise.
True.
I mean, that is true. I mean, that is true, but that was an off-screen death. All right, that doesn't count. They killed him in the background.
I don't know, man. When I heard that, like, what makes stone sink and ships float, I was like, all right, like, I think I just witnessed a murder right there.
The murder, yeah, that's what I mean.
Or like Galadriel, like the moment I was like, what is going on with Galadriel? Like, what the hell is this? Like,
there's a tempest in her, bro.
I have seen that clip, and then people put like the farting sound.
Yeah,
Again,
no, right?
again, I've not seen Rings of Power, so this is all just going right over my head.
Heroism, it was about the grim reality of human nature. Every character with a hint of traditional heroic virtue gets killed off early in the show, usually achieving nothing
Okay,
and dying
so
for
this
nothing.
is just
No, that's just not true.
so this is what I mean. That's just false. Brienne
I mean, this
survives
is
to the end. Bran survives to the end. Podrick
Davos.
survives to the end.
Davos
Davos
survives.
survives to the end.
Yeah, it's just a general, it's just like a general vibe. Like a lot of the heroic characters die. And I
hyperbole.
think obviously when you say every, I think, did he say every? I do believe.
Well, he said almost. He said pretty much every character, but he said like early on in the show, which is like, I mean, Jon Snow quote unquote dies in season 4.
Well, fine, that's midway through.
You even
right?
had,
Really
which is what I mean, right?
You even had villainous characters like Viserys die in the first season.
Early on, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Viserys dies.
Viserys, okay.
Viserys, yeah.
Dany's brother, yeah. Viserys dies. Well, Jaime Lannister gets captured, and he's still framed as a bad guy in the first season. So, like, yeah, like both good guys and bad guys get some W's early on, and then Robb Stark is kind of farming Tywin for battle wins in the second season. And he gets red weddinged, but and then Tywin gets killed by Tyrion. Like, again, this is a very gross. Like, the reason I take issue with this isn't even like him just being like, it's him being too offhand. You're being so offhand as to completely like demeaning again the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, where this absolutely doesn't hold true, and in the latter half, this especially doesn't hold true. All of the heroes have plot armor. So like,
oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, what is it? The Battle of Night is what I don't know what the specific.
The
long night. Yeah, I mean, I thought, dude, when I watched that, I was like, oh man, they're all gonna die. Like this is gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
and then there was the scene where it's like Brienne of Tarth, it's Landry, like, and one other character, and I mean, it looks like they're being eaten. And I was like, oh, okay, those 3 are gone. Or it's like Podrick as well. Or I don't know who specifically was in that. And then they all just show up at the end and they survived. I'm like, what?
They were so afraid to kill anybody off. They killed off
no. They killed one person. They killed exactly one major character in the Long Night.
Well, no, I thought they killed 3, like eye patch guy.
Well, they killed Mormont. They killed Mormont. Jor-El Mormont.
No. Barrack died later. Barrack was already dead by the Long Night. They killed Jor-El Mormont. Jor-El Mormont was, I think, the only like major death in the Long Night.
But Theon.
Yeah, Theon.
Theon. Yeah, sorry, I forgot about Theon. Yes, he dies. So Jorah and
yeah,
Theon.
I can't remember anybody else.
But I think Beric Dondarrion died in the quest for the White, right?
Yeah, no.
No,
I
no,
was just saying.
no, like his the guy who says a prayer to resurrect him.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, Boromir.
Thoros of
Yeah,
Myr. Thoros of Myr. Yes, Thoros of Myr
yeah,
also
yeah.
dies. Is Thoros a major character though? I don't know.
I mean
He has a couple scenes with the Brotherhood, but
true. Yeah, I guess you got me there.
yeah, like I think more people probably remember Beric than Thoros. You know, they remember the DPS, they don't remember the healer. It's unfortunate.
Because heroism is so last
Oh,
season, don't you know?
Oh, what's up?
apparently it's Beric died at Winterfell and Thoros died beyond the wall. So we had it backwards. Okay,
Okay.
fair enough.
Prophecies about chosen ones saving the world are laughed off and ignored. Characters who do the right thing are punished for it, while selfish backstabbers and opportunists flourish. Dramatic and emotionally
Okay,
satisfying
such as
payoffs are
who?
sacrificed.
Because Peter Baelish is dead, Tywin Lannister is dead, Joffrey Baratheon is dead. Like, they all die.
Yeah, I think this is one of those like like again like very like if I had to describe Game of Thrones, I don't necessarily know I'd be like heroic tale. I would say like people scheming in back rooms and people dying suddenly. I I mean he's making a very general descriptive sort of
Yeah.
argument, but obviously if if you break down like the specificity and say, okay, I'm going through your script, you stated this, show me the examples. You've stated like absolutely this is what takes place
Well,
here, 3 countervailing examples, therefore like your statement
yeah.
is not
Well, the
accurate,
thing is,
right? It's like one of those.
yeah. Like, the thing is, I'm not even trying to like autistically nitpick every single thing. It's just like, my big issue is when you describe it in such an offhand way, it comes across as you're clearly trying to sell me. You're not trying to convince me, like necessarily even not like for a lack of earnestness, but like you're trying to convince me with things that I know are not true, which just doesn't work. I feel this relies on people having a vibes based, like this feels like it's made for people who haven't watched Game of Thrones and just have a vibes based understanding of Game of Thrones,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Which
in
is
favor.
and like the reason again this like perplexes me is I think that you know, Drinker does enjoy these kinds of stories. It could just be and like he said, this is going to be like a rambly section. But like to me, it's like this level of rambling is kind of unacceptable. Like it does genuinely seem like you're just shitting on it because you liked this new thing and it does a thing that you like. So now we need to glaze it by putting down what came before, which I just think is not necessary. It gives me big like you need to denigrate like OG Star Wars to celebrate new Star Wars, but like with an actual good property behind what you're celebrating, if you know what I mean. Because new Star Wars is fucking shit, but Night of the Seven
Yeah.
Kingdoms is really good.
Yeah, but even then, like it could be argued that it doesn't show a conventional fantasy setting. Like everyone is like Duncan or Sir Dunk is kind of like the odd man out compared to all these other knights. He's trying to be an honorable knight, but everyone he interacts with is just an asshole for the
Yeah,
most part.
yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Steelman, I think the top of the shit writing, the end of Game of Thrones feels rather depressing. I mean, it feels depressing, but that's just because none of the payoffs are satisfying.
Hmm.
It's not like, in terms of the state of the world, it's like better off, right? But yeah.
Yeah.
Of doing the unexpected, even if it made no fucking sense. And what did we really end up with when all was said and done? What meaning and lessons were we ever supposed to take from Game of Thrones? That the world is a horrible, violent, and cruel place where good and evil don't exist, and all that matters is what you can take from it? That
So,
people themselves aren't
I have
really
a thing
worth.
for this. The core thematic through line, there are many. It really depends on the plot line, but the ultimate moral lesson of Game of Thrones is the uh, fuck, I forget who says it in the book. I think is it Jarell Mormont? But it's the duty is the death of love and love is the death of duty. It's the idea that in the like in the world, there sometimes are going to be things you're going to need to sacrifice to preserve your integrity, and sometimes those
Mm.
sacrifices might be great, but that doesn't mean that you don't do them.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
probably one of the core moral
I
lessons.
okay, that's interesting because based off the show, I ultimately like You guys can tell me if I'm wrong because I'm just going off based off the one time I watched it years ago at this point, where I always thought that there were like some discussions where like the ending of Game of Thrones should be the White Walkers win because of just how like
I was of that
spiteful
perspective
and
too.
divisive and just horrible everyone is to each other, and the idea that these people who are in like bitter battles with one another would cast all that aside and abdicate their quest for power to fight like for the greater good sort of seems like very far-fetched for at least some of the biggest players in the story, and thus that's why, oh, okay, Game of Thrones is really
Yeah.
bleak and it's all
Yeah,
really screwed up,
I think that's
and
definitely.
I
I
kind
think
of
that's.
understand that.
I think that's a major point. Like pursuit for power simply for the sake of it, like isn't worth it and
You know,
leads to
like
Yeah.
bad
Stannis's
outcomes. Yeah,
character does that, you know, in the
Joffrey
show.
does
Like that's a
that.
pretty yeah, you know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
I
characters. You
was
know,
to say,
Cersei. Yeah. I
oh
mean,
no,
I think in the books he's still alive, right? I'm just saying
yeah.
based off the show because I don't know if
Uh,
maybe Drinker's read the books. I don't know actually.
I was gonna say, Jasper in chat is right. Amon is the one who says it, and yeah, no, I said it's both. It's the both halves of it. It's love is the death of duty, and duty is the death of love. So like, yeah, there is that idea that if you just do your duty every time, you will like essentially forsake yourself, right? Like basically, it's think for yourself, but be aware of the consequences.
Hmm.
Sometimes pursuing the right thing or protecting the ones you care for might have consequences. Um, and yeah, no, you're correct. Like again, there are many, literally too many moral lessons in Game of Thrones, especially even just the first 4 seasons, which are the good ones, to like go into.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, Game of Thrones it's more of like it's like the setting of Westeros and like the people who inhabit it versus, you know, something like Lord of the Rings is very conventional in here we're gonna follow this character on
yeah,
his journey and the trials and tribulations he goes through.
yeah,
So I'm not even like necessarily sure it's like maybe
yeah.
it's not even entirely fair to compare the
Well,
two directly.
Yeah, like
just like
not even.
even a single one for a single character. Sorry, but like Oberyn Martell. Oberyn Martell is a person who goes out of his way to get revenge, has an opportunity at it, was gonna get it, and then fails because he was so like driven by that desire that it ended up resulting in him making a mistake and getting himself killed. Thus, pride comes before the fall, because he was so confident he'd won already.
Yeah,
Like,
like you guys are saying, there are multiple different plot like takeaways from different characters we're following, but this is just like multiple character arcs, and Lord of the Rings has had multiple character arcs too, so there's not one singular message. Uh,
yeah.
yeah, so I don't know why Drinker is making this point.
And again, there is elements of grey in Lord of the Rings. The speech that Faramir gives when he finds one of the dead Haradrim, like, his sense of duty was no less than yours, I deem. Like, the idea being that, hey, he's also serving a master, and maybe he, like, I wonder what his name is. Perhaps he wasn't, and if he was really evil at heart. Like, the idea
Wasn't
being
he
that,
answering the call to evil though? I don't know.
well, no, that's what you mean. But like, this is like book stuff, but like the Haradrim have beef with Gondor, which is why they're
Yeah,
fighting for
yeah.
Sauron.
I heard it, but I also heard it wasn't like super fleshed out. I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, it isn't super fleshed, but the point is, like, in the movie, Faramir like makes that
Yeah,
acknowledgement that
no,
like
no, I understand.
not
Okay.
everyone fighting in like the rank and file is like an evil
Yeah,
asshole who's
Boromir
just in
is
it to kill you.
another great
Boromir, yeah,
character.
yeah, Boromir
Famous
had like
example.
elements of grey to him for sure. Yeah, Denethor is like another one. Like there's
Oh,
a
really? Okay. In the movie, I just thought he was kind of like
yeah, in the movie he's an asshole,
notoriously
but in the books he's
incompetent. Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
in the books it's different. But like racist friends are the best friends. That's true. Gimli is the best racist homie. Look, never ask a man his salary, a woman her age, and a dwarf the ethnicity of his girlfriend. All right.
My
What?
biggest problem with dark fantasy is too many dicks on screen. I don't even want to see my own dick.
Yeah, I will say there is recently been quite a lot of junk in TV, and I don't. I'm kind of not digging it. Well,
Sure.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bring back
there's an
OG
argument to be
Game
made
of
about that.
Thrones,
It's
right?
almost as though
OG.
it's almost as though there are special websites online you can go for that sort of
Okay, all
stuff.
right.
Yeah. But
Hmm.
yeah, let's get back to this.
saving or protecting because they're all equally shitty anyway? Wow, how inspiring. Morality, meaning, and purpose were all sacrificed in favour of nihilistic subversion and smug deconstruction to be the cool kid on the block for a
I never took it as smug deconstruction. Game of Thrones as smug deconstruction of the
No,
fantasy
not
genre
really.
at any point. It's just
I would say it's
expanding
pretty
on it.
clever.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only character that like jumps out at me as like explicitly a deconstruction is like Robert Baratheon, who's like the knight who won the war, like literally killed the dragon and then got bored, right? You know, like found out that the life afterwards is like complete shit.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, I mean, this is just very strong and like coming right off the bat with like very sweeping claims, and that's going to be tough, especially because I have a very hard time getting past the fact that some of the writing in, I'll say first six, but maybe it could be first four seasons of Game of Thrones. I mean, it's really good. Like it's very 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 good. It's
Yeah,
and I do believe that the bleak tone actually aids the story and it aids like the setting. I don't
yeah,
believe it's a negative or like downward force on the quality of the narrative at all.
yeah. And again, like the idea that like morality and everything was sacrifices. That no, that's plenty of moral lessons in Game of Thrones. Plenty of them. This is like you know, in even the I would even say all of the 8 seasons, like the first 2 seasons. People forget this, but the first 2 episodes of season 8 had a lot of great stuff in them. Like the episode 2 where it's like pre-battle and everyone's like fucking oh shit we're gonna die, right? Like those are pretty fucking good episodes with a lot of good stuff in them, like Jamie knighting Brienne and shit like that. Those are
Mm,
yeah, there was a lot of good stuff in Game of Thrones, and just like trying to pretty much beat it down now that it's a dead horse and suggest that it's like patient zero for everything wrong with fantasy today is like it reminds me a lot of, you remember like when Call of Duty, this is like 2010s lore, but like when Call of Duty was like super popular and everyone blamed Call of Duty for the issues that the industry has, when like the reality is no, you need to look inwards, motherfuckers. Like that's the problem.
mm, yeah.
Like yeah.
couple of years. The problem is, though, cool isn't very deep. Cool is nothing more than surface level flashiness with nothing more substantial or meaningful to back it up. These
It's a good. It's a good thing that's not what the first four seasons are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
No.
memorable moments that I think are fair. Like obviously Ned Stark's like journey to me is like one that like is very memorable. Even things like even like small things like Jano Slint's like whole journey was like really
Yeah, it's
interesting.
funny. Yeah.
Like there's like so many little details and intricacies and
Braun.
how like Braun is like an excellent of like a guy just rising through the ranks like the entire time, and sort of a commentary on like how many of these houses and
Yeah.
honorable places probably started, which was maybe not so
Yeah.
like noble in its
Yeah.
origins. I don't know. This is just very strong, very like general vibes based arguments again that I mean, I understand that it might be easier to pull out like general overarching conventional morals from a Lord of the Rings or, like more conventional narratives than maybe Game of Thrones. But I mean, Game of Thrones just has so many stories and so many things within it that it's a little difficult for me to get on board with
Mhm.
this.
Hmm.
Yeah.
same problems of nihilism and moral greyness were carried over
Yep,
into
there it
House of the
is.
Dragon.
He
And
said it.
yes, I know the show still has
He said it.
defenders, but I'm just going to come out and say
Ah,
this.
that's
For all the
me.
smart writing and the excellent performances, House of the Dragon is a fucking slog, man.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
This
Okay.
is probably where as I said in the beginning of this stream, this is probably one of my biggest issues with this video, which is if you've seen Critical Drinker's previous coverage of House of the Dragon, it is all very positive. He enjoyed the first season tremendously. They talked a lot about Viserys. I think Viserys maybe is his favorite character from the first season.
Probably.
He
Yeah.
he enjoyed that quite a bit. And I'm pretty sure if you were, just to go on YouTube right now and search up Critical Drinker House of the Dragon, I do believe that they even have a live stream where, yeah, House of the Dragon season 2 starts strong. And some of the most popular episodes of House of the Dragon season 2 were in the middle, right? I believe like episode 4, episode 5.
4, 5, 6. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
like
And
we're so back.
and then so the ending, obviously everybody knows about the ending, but you can't use that to paint an entire show as a slog, right? So even if he wants to say, well, it leaves a bit of a sour aftertaste for the ending of season 2, again, he's been, very praiseworthy. I think if you go to one of his clips from the Critical Drinker After Hours, if you say it's drinkers, chasers, why House of the Dragon is destroying Rings of Power, it's for it. This is his description for an unwanted prequel show that everyone expected to flop. House of the Dragon has managed to win over all of us. Why? Because it's well written and mature with characters that look and act like adults.
Hmm.
That's his like description for the
Yeah,
live stream clip. So yeah, I mean, again, you're free to change your mind. I've changed my mind on a movie or a show. I'm sure, you know,
Oh, I think you're cutting out Kelesto.
is it
thing
Jasper
that happened. You're
Hottie?
going to
Okay.
Yeah, if you're going to make this change, you should I believe you should at least illustrate and make the points as to, hey, I know I previously praised this show for X and X reasons, whether it be the really smart writing that I'm praising, or hey, the really good visual effects. Like I really do think House of the Dragon like looks good. As also like one of its super strong points. I've praised the show for X and X reasons, but recently, for some odd reason or whatever, this issue stands out to me, and it's sort of covered over, like it's masked or
Well, I think
diminished the previous pros.
I think if I was to like anticipate what he might say to that is like, yeah, but then I watched Night of the Seven Kingdoms and it reminded me about the kind of fantasy that I really like, and it made House of the Dragon like not look really good at all by comparison, which he could say, and that would be fair, but like, you know, it is hard to not have all of this feel, especially with the Game of Thrones talk that he just had about like to have it just not feel like historical revisionism about all of these problems these things had, and like the one single acknowledgement of like, oh yeah, it did really good things at one point, but then there were no moral lessons in it or anything, and then that has moral grayness. Also, Jasper, I will fight you on Hot D if you want to. We can set up a stream. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Again,
But
I haven't seen House of the Dragon at all, but from what I've seen online, is that season two kind of dips in quality. Is that what you
Well, I
found,
think the end.
Jan?
the ending, yeah, the
The
last three
ending.
episodes are
Okay.
really bad. Like that,
Okay.
they're really bad.
I remember the last two for me, but I mean, listen, dude, season two really with is the episode called Dance of the Dragons or something similar? I
Uh,
mean,
the mill, I think, or something like
okay,
that. You mean the battle one, right? Right,
yeah, the battle.
with Rhaenys' death. Yeah.
Yeah, Renee. I mean, the thing is not only are those episodes really good, they set up some pretty like interesting things in the first few episodes of Game of Thrones, and it's one of those things where without those like setups initially, the payoffs that you get in those middle episodes aren't going to be as strong. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that, for at least up until that point, I thought season two was doing, really well. And it was one of the like I still remember live streams where people were talking about, yeah, see, this is why, like, even people are complaining about the slowness of it all. This is why you have those scenes, so like when the payoff occurs, it's all been like set up well, and it all makes sense, and it's all logical. And if I'm not mistaken, I do believe Critical Drinker was echoing those sentiments. So hate the ending of this season two all you want. Like
Hmm.
like there were definitely some really dumb decisions from a writing perspective. However, like again, I think you have to take how much of a fraction of the show is it in total versus how much you've.
Yeah. It's the Red Dragon and the Gold is the battle episode. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's that the Burning Mill, Red Dragon, and the Golden Regent are like commonly considered to be the best episodes of season two. I know a
Hmm.
lot of people like season 7 as well. Sorry, episode 7 as well. But I was like, it's whatever.
Hmm. Okay. We're halfway
Not only is it
done.
crushingly slow and relentlessly grim and bleak, not only does it lack even the slightest trace of
Okay,
levity or
can you
even good.
pause?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, again, right? Like he says crushingly slow. To me, in my mind, that means like he's now
Bad
not only
pacing.
saying that, like yeah, he's saying it's like badly paced and is kind of boring, right? Because he's saying like, oh well, nothing's happening. But again, those first episodes of season 2, like they do set up some important elements, and you're not going to get that if you just skip right to the battle or whatever. And based off his wording, I feel as if that's what he's stating. And John, you previously mentioned it as well with Andor. Like that was a criticism that people have of Andor was like, oh man, it's like crushingly slow. It's
Yeah.
boring. Like, why do I have to sit through, this like the first, I remember some people saying of like season 1, oh, the first 2 episodes, that could have been condensed in like 1 episode or like 30
Mhm.
minutes. Like, why are they taking all this time to set, like explain the
Yeah.
sort of stuff that could just be, you could just smash cut right to the action. And it's like, well, you're missing a lot of the intricate character moments. You're missing a lot of the small little details. And it's another aspect of they don't just have to tell you everything, right? Instead of like a 10-minute sequence of everyone just spouting off exposition, they take a little bit more time, but they show you everything and all the various aspects and the characters. They show you what's happening. And that's where you can really appreciate some of the better writing.
Yeah. It's a critical like part of getting the setup right for the payoffs to mean anything, right? And yeah, like ultimately this is like the crushing bleakness of it and everything. I'm like, okay, well, so you didn't like it. That's fine. Cool, I guess. I don't really know what to say to that, right? Like I liked it. I think that having it is pretty cool and can still be pretty meaningful.
Yeah. I'll message you on Discord just to double check. It was Kino who said that, right? Hard to tell when none of your mouths move.
It was
Uh,
me.
would it be would it be cool if I just added him to the Kino core? Maybe we could just have just ha add him on right now, or would that be like
I was gonna
be
say I don't
advice against
have
that?
I'm not equipped at this moment to have a House of the Dragon discussion, like a
Okay,
full-on
okay.
one. I would need to rewatch it if we're gonna have like
Yeah,
a serious
we can play in
conversation
another
about it.
stream. We can play another stream
Yeah,
then in the future.
but
He has given a significant amount of super chat, so I think I owe him at least that
uh,
much.
no, I'm completely fine with talking to someone about it. I just don't want to be like, I don't actually remember what happens, So
Yeah, we could like yeah, for
yeah,
debates like that, it helps to rewatch the series.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um, I
maybe
think
that
season one I would be. I think season one I would be able to defend super easily, but season two not so much.
yeah.
I mean, even in season 1, like there's bad stuff in season 1, right? Like
Oh,
Rhaenys
the
just
big
breaking
bad, yes.
underground,
The
like,
big
and then she just stares down
the
everybody.
big that's like the big problem with season one. But like, yeah, that's like having one really shit scene doesn't
Yeah.
make the story bad.
Hmm.
Would her kill count like exceed everybody's like
Yes,
in the show?
yes, it's not close.
Oh, that's funny.
Hmm. Okay.
Old-fashioned human
Anyway,
warmth, but ever since Viserys died at the end of season 1, it lost the one and only character who was genuinely good and endearing.
Okay,
what
so I
about
guess that's his
Jace?
explanation.
Yeah, I was gonna
His
say, what
favorite
about
character died.
Jace? Jace is a really good kid, and he's nice, and he's kind.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now it's just one
I
group of
I kind of like Aemond, honestly, so maybe I'm wrong on that.
Aemond is based, but Aemond is
Yeah,
also a
like
psychopath. But Aemond is a cool psychopath, so we like him.
listen, when they took out his eye and then he got the sapphire, I was like, yeah,
Yeah,
man, I don't know. I hope this guy's gonna take both of you guys out. Like, I don't know.
he's aura farming, bro. It's really cool.
Yeah.
unlikable, selfish arseholes pitted against another group of unlikable, selfish arseholes. I don't really care
But
which
couldn't that
side
not be
wins because why
engaging? Like, that doesn't mean it's
Yeah.
not engaging
Yeah,
storytelling,
exactly.
right? Like in
Yeah,
Reservoir Dogs, how many of those guys would you consider like quote unquote like good people? Obviously, I believe his name is Tim Roth, if the actor's name is
Tim
serving me
Roth's
right.
character.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Tim Roth's character.
Even
Okay, yeah, sure.
even then, you
But
can say
everybody else
Brown,
is
right?
well. Even then, you can say that Tim Roth is kind of a scumbag for like lying to people.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
but he's
Like there are
not.
people who would make that
like
argument.
Larry is. I guess Larry you would say is like he's like a quote unquote good guy gangster, but he also kills a lot of people. So
Yeah.
should I? There's nothing to root for in any of them. There's not a single character I'd aspire to or find endearing or even particularly likable.
Why is
Yeah,
that a requirement? I just don't get it.
yeah, me neither. I don't understand it. I can see a
Yeah.
character who, like, and like, okay, holistically, but you're telling me there's nothing that you find aspirational in Damon. His ambition, his like commitment to protecting his family, his willingness to put his life on the line in order to prove himself and to like be his own man.
Even
There's
as a caution,
nothing that
Yeah.
you
even
yeah
as a cautionary tale of what not to
yeah
do.
yeah.
I mean,
There's nothing
I
about Damon, nothing
yeah,
about
again,
any
I
of them.
just I just think you can still have a very engaging story, even if everyone involved isn't a great person, or again,
Mhm.
even if like you don't like anybody, right? Like they're not all like completely crazy like psychopaths, right? Like they each have
Yeah
like clearly their own motivations and at
yeah.
times their own like wants and their own like is it worth to make this decision to even because I'm owed this versus do I give it
Well,
up for like the greater good? Like these are interesting moral
again,
quandaries, right?
again, I think we talked about it with one battle after another, Kino. But like, it makes it like, how do these people like? How do you watch Goodfellas?
Yeah,
Who
I
is
was thinking
Yeah.
of Goodfellas. I'm like, aren't they? Isn't everyone just like terrible?
an asshole? Yeah, exactly.
Uh, like
Yeah.
I especially I hate Joe Pesci's characters in those movies and like those movies, man. And like I'm like, oh how like someone shoot him, like please.
Yeah,
They do eventually.
that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah,
They
yeah.
do.
Mhm.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
Jasper Lay with another $5. Like my daddy says, if I throw enough money at someone, they will notice you. Didn't expect a debate now though. I need to get to bed here directly. Yeah, that's
Uh-huh.
fair. That's totally fair. It
Yeah,
was
you can
just
do
kind of
another
like
time.
it was
I'm
just
happy
like
to.
kind of it was just kind of on a whim from on my end though.
Yeah. Fair play,
It,
fair play.
yeah, it gives me an excuse to watch House of the Dragon before the debate.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's
Whether
a
it
good
was
show.
accidental or intentional, House of the Dragon is the ultimate expression of this cold, nihilistic modern view of fantasy writing where nothing really matters, nothing's intrinsically good or evil, so there's no
Okay,
reason to get
dude.
invested in the
Okay,
Isn't
struggle
okay,
because it
dude.
doesn't
Doesn't
even
Rings of Power
Whatever.
have like very like good and bad? Am I mistaken? I thought
Well,
like Rings of
he's
Power
talking
were
about House of
really,
the Dragon right now. It's like again, like
really good.
okay,
Mhm.
Jace
But
and
he said this
Cregan's.
is it's emblematic of the trend in modern fantasy
Yeah, yeah,
writing, right? Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah, well, yeah. But like, I was just sticking with House of the Dragon. Like, what are the big like? What's the inherently bad thing, or like with Cregan Stark or Jace Targaryen?
well, I mean, I think his objection there would be they're not like the pivotal.
Uh, Yeah, but then I would say he's wrong. Jace is extremely pivotal, and Cregan will be pivotal eventually. But that's fair. He'd have no reason to know that. But
Hmm. Okay.
matter which side wins. It's just the War of the Roses, but with dragons awkwardly
Well, sorry, I
spliced
cut
into
out.
the
Did I cut out?
mix. And
yeah.
ultimately, it
Oh,
leaves you
sorry.
with
Play
Yeah,
that one back because that is the line that did trigger DEFCON 1 for me
writing
actually
where
when I was
nothing
first
really
watching this
okay.
matters,
video. So.
nothing's intrinsically good or evil, so there's no reason to get invested in the struggle because it doesn't even matter which side wins. It's just the War of the Roses, but with dragons awkwardly spliced into the mix. And ultimately,
Okay, I'm sorry, but the War of the Roses with dragons. That sounds uninteresting and boring to you? I'm sorry?
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
Like,
I
I'm
mean,
guessing
any
this is some British history that I'm
yeah,
not
it's like
aware.
one of the most interesting fucking periods in British
Yeah,
history.
I'm
I
sure.
mean,
I mean, isn't
I
sorry,
mean,
go
as
ahead. I'm
someone who
sorry.
hasn't even watched the show, like a battle with dragons just sounds inherently interesting to me, even if I don't know any of the characters.
Yeah. But oh, the war actually Kelesto, do you know the Richard III, the Shakespeare play?
No, I do not.
No, that's fine. It's just like that takes place during the time of the Wars of the Roses. It's just a very popular period in British history. But like the point being, he's like, oh, this is like a historical epic, but with dragons.
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean,
dude.
I guess like the thing is, I mean, people are though. Like people are like, oh, are you green or are you black? Right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
that is like something people do, right? A lot of people are like on Team Rhaenyra because even though she's breaking tradition, like her father Viserys named her next in line. Versus like you could argue, well, does Rhaenyra have a lock on everything? There are a lot of guys like at least in Westeros who seem as if they're kind of saying, should I be ruled by Rhaenyra? I could take her out, versus like Aegon, who might have a better, just by being a man, has like a better claim. And then, who you find particularly interesting on either side, right? Like I really like Otto Hightower. Like
Yeah,
he's one of my
I
favorite
was gonna
characters.
say, I
But then simultaneously, I really like Damon a lot as well, and so it's one of those things where he's like, oh, there's nobody to root for, which I'm like, I don't know, like these characters are
yeah.
different enough where even if
Look,
no one
Mm.
is 100% virtuous, there's still like the differences in personality and how they would govern and all those sorts of things that could
like,
lead you to make a certain decision.
look, I'm Team Green because I think Otto Hightower would do what's best for the realm, and he would be the hand of the king on the Greens. And I like it when Aemon kills people. All right, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah, but dude, Damon is too cool, man.
Daemon
With
is
with
very
the
cool.
with the what's his dragon? Bloodworm
Uh,
or
Syrax, right? I think
yeah, Syrax. Oh yeah, Syraxis, right?
Syraxis.
Dude,
Yeah,
I mean the screech and then like I love the scene on the bridge where like
yeah,
he's just holding the hostage and then his dragon just is like it's not even like a roar, it just
yeah. Like a cry. Yeah,
screeching like in the back.
it's
It's like a
really
he
cool.
just yeah, it's really it like see, you know what I'm saying? Like scenes like that, it's so tough to be like,
Yeah,
yeah, this is just like some boring, bleak, everything
yeah. It's
sucks,
so
everybody
shit. Nothing's
sucks.
good, and it's a
I was just like,
slog.
I'm just
I
like,
don't know, man.
and he was praising it like a few
Yeah,
if you're gonna come away with this like opinion, I think you should at least say, hey, here's why I was
yeah.
wrong.
Yeah,
My
elaborate, like make an
favorite.
argument.
Yeah. Like again, like there's admirable qualities in most of these characters. Also, Aemon
Yeah, that's
bullies
true.
autistic people, so there's that.
Damn.
It leaves you with this weird, empty, unsatisfied feeling, like watching a robot painting a perfect copy of the Mona Lisa. You know there's a lot of technical skill on display, but there's no soul or emotion behind any of it. But hey,
Okay,
I'm
that
not just here
analogy
to
just
shit.
doesn't work. How is there a lot of technical skill with a robot painting the fucking Mona Lisa? It's a robot. It's programmed to do it. Unless you mean
Well,
the programming, I guess. But
I mean, it's difficult, right? Because we're gonna say, well, okay, Game of Thrones looks really good, like purely from an aesthetic standpoint, it looks really good. Okay, yeah, that's true.
mhm.
Oh, all the performances are really, really good. I do believe I had not heard of half of the actors, actually, probably more than half of the actors before the show started, and now we know actors like Reese Ifans, we know Emma D'Arcy,
Yeah,
we know even like Matt Smith, right? From like what I understand, he was in the um Morbius, right? And
it was
then
And Doctor
Morbius.
Who,
yeah,
and
Well,
Doctor Who.
and then
he was in Doctor Who. Yeah, he was like a
yeah.
big. He was
No,
kind
no,
of a
what I'm saying
household
was like
name.
that was his most
Yeah,
recent thing, and
yeah, yeah,
then he just completely like steals the show, right? Patty
yeah,
Constantine, right? I know obviously Patty Constantine was in Mobland, which I did enjoy his performance, and
yeah.
he gives a good performance there, but really it was like Viserys. And didn't he like Viserys a lot? Like, oh, I guess he
Yeah,
said
yeah, yeah. Well,
once
yeah, once
Viserys
it
died.
says that, which is
But
like halfway through the show, so
yeah,
it's like,
which is like
oh,
it's halfway, so there's gotta be something there. And then additionally, like I do think like, again, Aemon, Damon, Otto, like these are interesting. I mean, I was always more of a Damon guy during the first season, so like the fact that he's still I think I know how the show ends because I think they gave it away in Game of Thrones originally. So, you know,
yeah,
it's still like obviously the destination is interesting, but the journey itself I think is still worth
mhm,
and there's still payoffs. Like there's payoffs like, the we were talking about midway through season 2.
yeah, yeah. No,
Hmm.
it's just again, I think he's just like being denigrating to it in order to prop up Night of the Seven Kingdoms, which I don't know that you need to do. You can just be like, hey, this is fine if you like a more darker style of like a grounded, low fantasy,
It
but I like this more like more conventional hero's journey.
it kind of
That's
just
all you had to say. You didn't
it,
need to take a shit all over what I would consider 1.75 really good seasons of television and 4 really good seasons of television.
it just sounds as though he just need to wait until more episodes of a Night of Seven Kingdoms came out, so he could elaborate more on his opinion without doing
Yeah.
this. Hmm.
Yeah, this feels like a complete, like, again, if I was being super like diluting it down, he likes the A Knight of Seven Kingdoms more than he likes like Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, and obviously a lot of other the fantasy that's coming out recently because it's shit. But
Mm.
like,
I
you don't need to shit on Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon to prop that up. It's just, again, it's a strategy that's adopted by people who want to really desperately defend Star Wars, and it's kind of unbecoming to see it from Drinker, I think.
Mm.
Oh, the people who are saying, "Oh, well, if you didn't like the OT did this or something."
It's more like this, like the Star Wars was always stupid because yes, I understand that this is some of the most abysmal writing ever, but conversely, in 1970, a stormtrooper
Okay,
bumped his head, so
Yeah.
it
th
was
this
always
is
goofy.
yeah, I
The
will say,
Star
I think
Wars
there's a
Holiday
difference.
Special.
Like, I do
Yeah,
think there is the argument, like, you could make, I'm not saying I agree, but, like, "Oh, if you have an issue with this, then in order to be consistent, you should have an issue with this as well." If you wanna be consistent or whatever, but yeah, I think
yeah.
oftentimes it really does devolve into, like, "Oh, it was always shit." I think the best example that I saw about this was, I don't remember. It was on Twitter. Like, this was purely on Twitter, but there was some Twitter account that made a whole like long ass thread on Nerdrotic, and like Nerdrotic is an evil person or whatever.
Mm.
And then it got them a lot of track. It got him a lot of traction. But then later on, when Daredevil Born Again came out, he was like, "Guys, let's not pretend that like the fights in the original Daredevil show
Oh
were all
yeah.
that great." And then Maul, I think Mauler responded like, he's like, "Never give an like something like never give an opinion again," or something. Or no, I think he said like, "Oh, I see we're making the argument of it was always shit, huh?" And I was
Yeah,
like, "Okay, like that's egregious. Like what?"
yeah. No,
Hmm.
for sure.
On George R. R.
Anyway,
Martin. That being said, finish Winds of Winter, you fat lazy fuck.
Yeah,
true.
I agree. I agree. Finish it.
Like when he's right, he's right.
Yeah.
And A Dream of
The world
Spring.
of Middle Earth isn't immune to this weird creeping nihilism and moral ambiguity that's infected modern.
Uh, it should be noted that George R. R. Martin rejects this idea that he's a nihilist or that he's promoting nihilism. Just thought I'd
Well,
put
yeah,
that out there.
Okay,
yeah,
well, we'll see now.
obviously,
He's bringing up Rings of Power, so we'll see. Like
yeah,
he's gonna make the
Fantasy
connection.
either. Remember Rings of Power? Remember Galadriel, who was once written as a being of such pure goodness and compassion that mere mortals could barely even hold eye contact with her for more than a few seconds without breaking down? Remember how she got reimagined as a brutal, bloodthirsty warlord girl boss who seems to hate everyone, willingly sacrifices her own people for the sake of petty revenge, and acts like a spoiled brat when she doesn't get her own way?
There's a tempest in me.
so so
Remember how
again,
the orcs
So, can I just give my initial
yeah,
thoughts
go on.
on this?
Yeah.
Because I think based off what he described and like my understanding, I thought like based off what he's saying, I think it has more to do with like wokeness. Like I think it has more to do with the fact of like one of the long-standing criticisms by a certain ilk of people is that Lord of the Rings does not have enough badass female warriors and characters. It doesn't pass the Bechdel test
Which
or
is
whatever.
fucking
And
crazy.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's stupid, but like that's their criticism, and because of that, we need to alter Tolkien's lore in order to make room for that specific type of character. That's what we saw with War of the Rohirrim, and because of that, it seems like the right and Jennifer Salke sort of seems to like have who was the former head of Amazon like studios seem to sympathize with those sorts of arguments quite heavily, and it does seem like they're like, okay, we need a super badass female character. What's a name people recognize? Oh yeah, Galadriel. And then because we're making her like this like super like insane commander of the northern armies, she's just going to be like incredibly like insane at fighting and super like stoic and super aggressive. We're just going to make her like the most badass character. And that sort of seems like where the motivation and execution lies, more so than we want to make Lord of the Rings really dark.
Yeah,
That's kind of my
that's
read on it.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's
Well,
just
like, oh, go on. You go.
yeah, it's just like I was just gonna say, yeah, it just sounds like bad writing. To cite Game of Thrones, the show again, look at season 7. You saw this with Arya and Sansa throughout the season. Like their arc culminated, or like for that season, culminated in killing off Peter Baelish, and it was like in such a stupid way. Like they wanted to show. they wanted to present them as being intelligent characters, but they went about killing him in the dumbest and most unnecessary way. Like they could have just they organized this whole elaborate plot where they pretend to hate each other, where he can swoop in and try to convince them, like one of them to kill the other or whatever. When they could have just killed him, just right there. They made it overly complicated, like for no reason.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, so I think like that's kind of where the issues stem from. Like
Uh,
I think if you had to trace back the motivation of the writers and the showrunners of like why did you make Galadriel that way, I really doubt it would be oh
yeah.
we like it doesn't even make sense. Like it's not even like a Game of Thrones thing. Like her like what she does, like even in just the first episode alone, which is what I saw. Like that's not like Game of Thrones. That's like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like John Wick, Mission Impossible. Like they just like the most insane like like girl boss of a character more so than oh let's take inspiration from
Yeah, and
GOT.
like the thing is, again, ultimately, I agree with him that there is a problem with the morality in Rings of Power, but that has again, it's I think it's less to do with it has pretty much nothing to do with wanting to emulate Game of Thrones. I don't see that connection there at all. It has everything to do with the people writing it being incompetent. And
Yeah,
like
and they
I don't see the Game of Thrones DNA in it at all, and I don't know that this tie-in works at all.
yeah they wanted to make her yeah they wanted their girl boss character to like placate as he would say the modern audience, right?
Yeah.
Were rewritten from horrible, bloodthirsty creatures of pure evil who existed only to fight and destroy into innocent, peace-loving family men just looking for a homeland of their own, manipulated into fighting someone else's war.
That's just
Yeah.
like so goofy.
Yeah, I will say like
Remember
I haven't seen it, but I saw that clip and I was genuinely like, what the hell like is this show?
Mm.
how
Sauron.
Sauron was turned from Middle-earth's answer to literal Satan into a
He
sulky,
is not literal
emotionally
Satan.
incontinent incel who actually thinks he's doing the right thing and cries when he can't win Galadriel over to his sides? Well, Pepperidge Farm remembers, motherfuckers. It's the same story with The
Okay,
Witcher,
again,
where
like this is all fine, but you need to link it to Game of Thrones, and you're not doing that. I don't know why we spend so much time in Game of Thrones establishing as everything that's wrong with modern fantasy. Because again, like I don't know that Rings of Power is even particularly subversive if you consider it its own thing absent the source material. Um,
Oh,
it
okay.
doesn't have a lot of like it's subversive in the sense that it takes characters from existing material and makes them other people, but that's not a subversion. It's not a sudden surprise that oh you thought Galadriel was going to be like the kindly wizard lady, but now she's actually a fucking warrior. She reclassed between episodes. It's like it's very straightforward, man. It's not a subversive story, and it's not really trying to subvert anything at
Yeah,
all.
you're saying independent. If you say
Yeah,
hypothetically the source material never existed and you just took Rings of Power
yeah.
on its own, it's not like it still has like very
It's just a
conventional.
shit show.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
storytelling.
just a shit television show. That's all it is.
Yeah, it's like
Like,
it's a shit television show on its own, and then stacked on top. If you like take it from its
yeah,
source material, it's like a downright disrespectful modern
exactly.
monstrosity.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
I get
then
what you're saying.
the other thing I was gonna say is like I almost feel like he's giving it too much credit. Like I feel that he's making it deeper than it is on some level. Like it's not that deep, man. It's just shit. Like it's not trying to. I think
Well,
he thinks it has these grand aspirations, and I don't think it does really. Like
wasn't there like some statements from the showrunners or something where they're talking about like in this moment, like Sauron connected with Galat, like they were trying to
I think the
like
famous what is the meme
potentially like
one?
shit,
I think the
like or
most memed
something.
one was when they said they wanted Sauron to be like Walter White, which was just
Oh
it
yeah,
was
yeah,
just
yeah.
incredibly funny.
Uh,
Sauron's gonna start slinging math, boys. Let's do it.
he's gonna throw pizzas
Yeah,
on roofs.
Well, he's
he
gonna be
was
the
never
biggest
morally
like pipe weed dealer this side of, you know,
the Shire, yeah,
this
very
great
side
much.
of
so.
Amon
There are
Sul.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Did you guys hear that Aiden Ross bought the original Breaking Bad house? He said
That's crazy.
for
Oh, that's
400K.
interesting.
Yeah.
Four
no
400?
heroes.
Yeah, 400.
Huh?
Oh, okay.
It's a pretty
That's honestly cheaper than I expected.
it's a pretty
I-
just a regular ass house. It's just
I
Yeah.
did hear
yeah.
that the owners were getting like pissed off that so many people were like coming to the house, so maybe they just wanted to get
Yeah.
rid of it.
Yeah,
that would make sense, I guess. Yeah.
understandable. Ugh.
And no real sense that anyone's ever going to rise to fill that position, and half the time you're left wondering who you're even supposed to be rooting for. I mean, personally, the only character I supported was this absolute legend, but probably not for the reasons the
Yes,
showrunners intended.
Leo Bonhard was the GOAT. That is true.
I will say this. I've only seen clip. Like this looks good. Like this like action scene. Like
Yeah, it's a good action scene, and you know it's a cherry on top because he kills off 7 of the most insufferable people on fucking planet Earth. It's crazy. He's the best
yeah,
character.
but you're not supposed to be rooting for it, right? It's just like because everything's so bad, you just end up.
So, fun thing about this is actually true in the books as well. In the books, like in both the show and the book, like they're much worse in the show, but the rats are insufferable in the books as well. Everyone cheers Leo Bonhard on in this scene, no matter the
okay.
format.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that like I thought was disappointing was there were like actually 1 or 2 good fights, at least in the first season of The Witcher that I genuinely believe are really good, and just so much of the rest of the show just sucked so much.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get like once I finished the second season, I just could not find the will to continue.
Though it is worth caveating in The Witcher, the rats are much more explicitly bad people. They're not trying to like have them be super sympathetic like they did in the TV show.
They're not like diverse lesbians or whatever.
I actually don't know if I think some of them are. I actually don't remember that, but they are like. So in this, they tried to have them be like a Robin Hood and a Band of Merry Men situation. In the book, they're pretty much killers for hire.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, again, like I have not seen House of the Dragon, so I just gotta check it out. Like I'm sorry if I'm not contributing a lot to the discussion, but I haven't seen a lot of these shows, so yeah, everything's just going over my head.
I mean, but
Kind of.
isn't that kind of sad though? Like, think about it. Like, we have so much modern fantasy, and most of it just isn't worth watching. Like, because of how these showrunners have just like, whether it be Lauren Hissrich for The Witcher, whether it be, oh man, I forget the Rings of Power showrunners, those 2 guys. I mean,
Yeah.
If it's some, I remember there was a statement from, I believe it was the showrunner for Wheel of Time, if I'm not mistaken, where he said, you know, I'm just going to continue making these characters gay, just like piss you off or something like that. It's genuinely kind of sad. We could have been living in a golden age of fantasy, and we're
Could I
just stuck with this now.
Really quickly highlight there's Spider-Venom 2007 in chat is very eager for us to talk about Spider-Man. Maybe
Wait,
we will.
holy shit, he was leaving a bunch of messages. Let me.
Uh,
Can you review Ultimate Spider-Ram? Can you review Spider-Man 2016? You forgot the Spidette Man. What? And
I like the-
Homecoming.
Homecoming.
Can you do a Spider-Man movie
and the
ranking?
Spider-Man game ranking.
And it's
What is your favorite
What is your
Spider-Man?
favorite Spider-Man? It's Spider-Man.
Soider Man. That's funny.
Ultimate Spider-Man is good.
Is Ultimate Spider-Man the cartoon show where like Spider-Man breaks the fourth wall a whole bunch? Is
Yeah,
that
Ultimate Spider-Man's cartoon is good. I think SK sent him, but maybe one of these days, Spider-Venom 2007.
We'll do all of those specifically just for you because you asked so polite like.
Dude, why do all these people have like a Spider-Man avatar?
Because Spider-Man is
good. Spider-Man's good.
No, Spider-Man should be thankful that Sonic exists to be the avatar of autism because he is the patron saint.
Didn't Otterly Noah recently have something like that where he was like talking about someone? I don't know.
I don't fucking know, man.
I'm just surprised that Thomas the Tank Engine isn't the avatar for autism.
That's true. Well, listen, that's why my favorite autism-coded character, all right, Lemon from Bullet Train, all right?
Oh, it's Tangerine and Lemon?
Yeah, it's Lemon and Tangerine. Lemon is the Thomas the Tank Engine guy.
Oh, okay, yeah, I remember that. Oh.
Yeah. Thank you, please. You're welcome, Spider-Man 2000.
You're welcome. Anything for you. Anything for you.
God damn.
No.
perfection.
It doesn't help that the writing team were more preoccupied with turning every single female character into an invincible girl boss, who's usually gay because of course they are, than crafting an interesting story. But then
But to be
what do
fair,
you
that
expect
character
from
is
modern...
gay in the books, I think. But
Yeah, but I do think in Witcher they've made like The Witcher, like Lauren Hissrich and the casting director have made like several statements. Like
yeah,
it
yeah,
was ironic. Lauren Hissrich said like, "Oh, I'm not going to do that," and then she just ended up doing that a whole bunch,
yeah.
which I thought was pretty funny. So
Yep.
yeah, but again, like Game of Thrones doesn't really do this. I mean, maybe like towards the end of like
Well, you
the
could say
first
that
show,
towards the end they like started doing
yeah,
the girl boss
towards
shit
the
more,
end,
but
but
like,
for the most part, I think they're pretty solid. Like the most badass characters
yeah,
in House of the Dragon is like Aemond and Daemon and
yeah.
like yeah, sure, like
Kristen
Rhaenyra.
Cole,
Yeah,
who's
I mean,
kind of a bitch, but
Kristen. Dude, I like Kristen Cole's character.
well,
I know
you know,
people.
I like him too, but like, I mean, you know, he's like a petty bitch, but he's a fun petty
Yeah,
bitch, if you know what I mean.
no, for sure. And then like even like in House of the Dragon, like Aemond is I don't even know how old compared to Rhaenys, but I mean, dude, he kills her. Like he just
Yeah,
straight up
fucks
like
her up, yeah.
murks her. Like he murks her, dude. And if House of the Dragon was like, or Game of Thrones started like the girl boss whole thing, like you'd expect it to go
Well,
the other way.
yeah, and
Hmm.
like it's worth remembering. Again, John kills Danny at the end, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
writers. Time and time again, there's this bizarre urge in writing to reframe the moral positions of established characters and factions and blur the lines between good and evil. Why? Well, I'll tell you. Because in the minds of Hollywood writers, fucking every single thing has to reflect the world we live in today, regardless of context. Because why?
I don't disagree with that, but
I,
is
I
there a
it's
way?
the, it, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, Keenan.
Yeah, but is there a way that you can have that, but at the same time have it be natural within the story?
Well, can you? Oh, I may have lagged out. Are you guys saying anything?
No, 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 we
Oh,
hear you.
You're here.
okay,
We
yeah.
hear you.
No, I was
Yeah,
gonna say like this is kind of the thing where I kind of half agree and half disagree, like depending on what we're specifically talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of writers, a lot of the showrunners, especially, they if they just take the source material on its own, they will take issue with certain aspects of it. They will take issue with the lack of diversity. They will take issue with like the lack of like really strong, women warriors on the front line, like fucking shit up. Like yeah, they will take issue with that. However, I that's like a separate category than the bleakness and nihilism of dark fantasy today and blurring the lines between good and evil. I don't
well,
believe those two always go hand in hand.
well, I guess like what he's saying is that because this is with like sorry, not Game of Thrones, Rings of Power. He's like saying, oh, they like are subverting the original law to insert in like some moral gray and complexity, but like how are we blaming Game of Thrones for that? That doesn't make any sense. And they're not
Yeah, I guess
doing it in like they're not doing it in the way that Game of Thrones did at all. Like I just don't see the connection, you know. And like, why would they? There's like a big point I was saying for the end, so I guess I'll do it now. Why the fuck would they want to emulate Game of Thrones? Because Game of Thrones is like the most famous flop in like television history now.
well, I think they want like Game of Thrones at its height in like popularity and cultural
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
zeitgeistiness and all those
Yeah, yeah,
things.
yeah. But like the point is they're not emulating good Game of Thrones. If
Oh yeah,
they're
yeah,
emulating anything, they're emulating bad Game of Thrones. And
yeah.
like I don't know that they're even doing that because even bad Game of Thrones is better than Rings of Power. I'm sorry to say.
True.
Oh
Like,
man, damn.
I'd
Yeah.
I'd rather rewatch let's see.
I'd rather
Uh
rewatch season 8 than season 1 of Rings of Power
yeah,
because season 8 has 2 good episodes.
yeah, but just from a trailer of Rings of Power, I'm just not interested. Like I would rather spend more time writing out everything that went wrong in season 8, uh,
Yeah, that's
and what
true.
could
Yeah.
yeah, and what could be done better. Like I honestly think that's a better use of my time than watching it.
Yeah. I mean, Rings of Power doesn't even have good battles, right? Like the one interesting
Yeah.
thing that I heard was like the sacking of Eregion is supposed to be this like big thing and literally no one cares about it. And like some of the most like minor battles in Game of Thrones have like more recognition.
Oh, to be clear, Jasper, when I say flop, I mean like flop in terms of like cultural impact and like credit that it's given. I'm sure that season 8 made money. I'm sure that it was highly viewed, but like now nobody talks about Game of Thrones. Like positively almost ever outside of the first 4 seasons. That's like my point. Anyway, I have 10 more minutes.
I use
Alright.
imagination when you
We
can
can do it.
employ clumsy allegory instead. The problem is, the world we live in today is messy and complex and morally confused and filled with conflicting
Always has
viewpoints
been.
and perspectives where one man's villain is another man's hero. And hear me out on this one, but isn't the whole point of fantasy to escape the world we live in today?
No.
You're supposed to
No.
take something away from it that you can apply into the
No.
real world, I would say.
The
I
point
guess
of
it depends on the
fantasy.
project.
Yeah, it can be, but the point of fantasy is to tell a story in a fictional setting or a universe that has fictional rules. It isn't necessarily escapism. It can absolutely have
Yeah.
other objectives.
Yeah, like the
Mm.
baseline definition is like what you're
Yeah.
what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that why the fucking genre exists in the first place? Hollywood
No.
writers today don't seem to understand how to write actual heroic characters going on honest, sincere adventures anymore, and they definitely can't do it without a shield of ironic self-deprecation.
Okay, kind
Puss-
of true.
What about Puss in
Kind
Boots?
of true.
Does Puss in Boots and the Last Wish count as a fantasy film?
Yeah, it does, but like generally, right? He's probably appealing to generally we're getting more bad than good,
But
which
yeah,
seems to be the
yeah,
case.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm just
Or
like,
like, yeah.
yeah, I'm just
But
thinking of
you're
like
correct.
general examples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Puss in Boots would definitely satisfy this. But like that is like I'm not again. My umbrage isn't with him simply saying, "Hey, Hollywood has trouble trying like." Hollywood doesn't want to do conventional storytelling as much, yet this show shows why conventional storytelling is so good. So we should perhaps return to that over doing more of these very poorly written, morally confused stories. But then instead of that, we spend half the video talking about Game of Thrones, then randomly we shit on House of the Dragon, and then we talk about 2 television shows that are famously shit. I don't, this doesn't really make me want to watch A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, man. This makes me feel like you don't know a whole lot about Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, or like what makes those compelling.
Mm.
Or like, sorry, not that you don't know. I'm sure he does know, but like perhaps like you don't understand it, and that's fine. But like, why should this convince me that we need to make fantasy heroic again if I'm perfectly content with House of the Dragon, or the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, or if we're going to books, the first Law of Malazan?
All right.
Or sneering deconstruction in place to protect their egos from criticism. Why put your own creation out there when you can smugly deconstruct someone else's and call it art? Pretty much the only show in recent years to buck
Well,
that
I
trend has
do
been
kind of
One
agree with that. Like, there are
Yeah.
people who,
Yeah.
Right.
especially some of the like Lauren Hissrich or the
Yeah.
showrunners behind Rings of Power. Like, if you want your very modern day like progressive fantasy, like absolutely, like go for it. Like make your own
They never
original
do because it
story.
doesn't stand
But
by on its own.
there it's probably going to end up more like a Dustborn. If you've heard of that game, than like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
like
I
a
was gonna say,
genuinely compelling. Like,
they made a Netflix adaptation of this, and it was shit, which is very funny considering it is based off a progressive fantasy novel. But Shadow and Bone is pretty good.
Okay.
That's you could go read that if you want that. You know.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all I was gonna say. But you are absolutely correct about like again, this is like the thing with this video is Critical Drinker isn't wrong about the fact that Hollywood is shit, right? That's
Yeah.
like true, and that they seem to be trying to outcompete each other by we're gonna be so fucking clever when we do this, but like yeah, sometimes they are just clever, and you should give the devil his due, like with Andor, like with again the first 1.75 of House of the Dragon, like with the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, and it would be pretty fucking cool to have 8 seasons of Game of Thrones that bang, like
That would be dope.
Yep.
piece based on a manga of all things, because leave it to the Japanese to preserve the things that we've lost sight of.
Why? Why is that hard to believe?
Yeah, I mean,
don't
I
get
think
that
that certain,
either.
if I had to guess, he's probably talking like more conventional stuff, like leveling up your powers, like slowly
Like
gaining things over time, like more, like
like
more.
staying more faithful to like a European source material, or like
Yeah, there's
Well,
like plenty
the
of
Spirit of
like
Allied, I guess.
anime that will be set in like some fantastical
well,
European setting, and they won't like compromise on having
The
a
well.
lot
molds,
of
Here's
yeah.
the
a
like stuff like that.
here's a fun thing, but like it would depend. But if you ask like the average modern like person in the modern world, name me three fantasies, and they name off Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, I would be willing to bet like a fair amount of money that the third one to come out is going to be Berserk.
Yeah, Berserk.
Hmm.
Yeah, Berserk's very dark. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, and also just like it's a very it is also a manga. So like my point being
Yeah.
that I would say that one of the very well-known cultural fantasies is a manga. So
Yeah, I mean, I've only seen the original set of episodes, like the first season that like first came out back in the late '90s. But like, yeah, you talk about like a sadistic, bleak, like
yeah,
ending to something. I mean, it's
yeah.
it's that show. Yeah,
Well,
it's
the
that
funny
original
thing
set of
is,
episodes.
the Golden Age is like the only arc that's been well. Okay, so sorry. Well, no, you know what? That is true. It is the only one that has been adapted because I don't consider the fucking clanger anime to be canon to Berserk. But like the 1997 Berserk does end with the eclipse.
Yeah, dude, that's
So
so like I
yeah,
literally had to take a little bit of a break before watching something else that night.
Mm.
that is true. But Jasper again, but in Berserk they are pretty clear about ethnicities. Like it's very clearly inspired by like England, like the Hundred Years would be England and France, and there is one black chick. So
Yeah, I mean, people have been like these sorts of like there have been people complaining about, oh, manga or anime needs to be more diverse. Why am I watching this anime and there's like no person of color? Like that's been a long. I think that was a criticism of Final Fantasy 16, and the
I
director
think
just had to come out and be like, yeah, listen, like that's the story, that's the
I
setting,
think
like
my
get over
favorite
it.
one isn't there a character in Dragon Ball just called Officer Black?
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
a
yeah.
big
Commander
buff black
Black.
guy.
Commander Black, yeah.
Uh, I know in Naruto, Killer B, he's like rapping.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. Killer B is actually beloved, while like
yeah,
a
yeah.
Commander or
yeah,
Officer
no,
Black
but
is
like still,
hated.
it's just
Yeah.
like I appreciate that sometimes like the cultural constraints that appear here don't appear in it. Not to say that there aren't unique ones for Japan,
Mhm,
but it's just nice to have like a different,
sure.
you know,
Oh,
uh place making
Have you guys
media.
ever read
also,
Shaman King?
Shaman King. I watched Shaman King. That was like one of the few animes that I could catch that was airing.
There's a character named Chocolove.
Chocolo,
Can you
yeah,
guess what race he is?
yeah. He's Asian, obviously.
Yeah, obviously Asian. Yeah.
Uh, Anyway, also just like one thing that I want to say is like leave it to the Japanese to like do the things that we've lost sight of. I think listen, I'm gonna call you guys are free to disagree with me. This is like my own bent. I am very wary of all of this Japan glazing, all right? Japan has a fuck ton of problems too, all right? Just so we're
Well,
clear.
Right.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where like I don't like anime is such like a broad category that if we're just watching like shonen or I think like
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
CNN or something is like there's like a adult
yeah.
like a category for like more adult anime. Like there are probably like very unique things that like Japan might not be able to show that we like in Western media might be able to show. Like there are things
Yeah, yeah.
like it's not a complete like, oh,
Well,
Japan is just like the savior for
well,
everything. I just think like recently when people see like the way certain IP has been treated and it's kind of rubs people off in a very like particular way and
well,
like certainly like me as well, and then like certain practices that are like quote unquote not acceptable in like Hollywood anymore, like you could still kind of see in like some more Japanese media, and I think
yeah,
like
yeah,
that
sure.
very specifically people are pointing to.
But then the thing that I would, of course, go with is that's mainly because of survivorship bias, because the only things that get adapted are like the top percent of a
Most
percent
popular.
of like, manga and stuff, right? Whereas like, don't they make like literally like tens of thousands of those shit like of that like per year or something? Like most of that is shit and nonsense, all right? I'm sorry.
Different
Just
series?
yeah, no, like
Huh.
mangas, right? Like series and stuff.
Yeah.
Like they make a
There
fuck ton of
there
it, right?
there are tons of like serializations that get dropped because no one's reading them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get back to this.
A
We're
show
almost
that
done.
feels like a genuine adventure in a world very different from our own, centered around a likable protagonist who actually seems like a good
Why
person.
are we showing
that isn't
Mihawk on screen when we're talking about the
afraid to have
protagonist?
genuine heroic moments, that doesn't try to reframe its world as some bleak, morally grey hellscape.
I mean, it kind of is.
Okay,
Kind of
but
When,
is.
when you
Yeah.
consider the world government is what it is.
Yeah, isn't it like a dystopian, like totalitarian government that's trying to run everything?
Yeah, they're like the elite, like enslaved people, and
Oh damn.
the world government acts on behalf of them. They have to do what they say.
No,
Could
no,
you?
this is not us saying that it's Game of Thrones, obviously, just
Yeah.
to be clear. But
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Is
But
this where we could point out that Drinker likes Warhammer 40k, which is like a very grimdark
yeah,
setting?
I
Like he
was
really likes that. And listen, I like Warhammer 40k too. And I obviously I did play Space Marine too, and that is kind of more of like a heroic story. But from like generally like listening and like seeing some lore videos and some of the lore in Warhammer 40k, like it really does feel like sometimes they just take the dial on darkness and just shoot it up to 12.
well,
Like they're like, well, we could make it this kind of dark, but we're actually gonna push it all the way to like just the most bleak, horrific thing you could think
to
of.
be
Like,
fair, and I don't mean this to be critical at all, but I would expect his engagement with Warhammer 40k probably doesn't extend beyond like
cool aesthetics.
maybe like maybe the aesthetics, maybe he played like a game, and I would expect maybe he read a novel, which is completely fine. That is how most people engage with it, but I wouldn't expect that he would have a lot of lore knowledge about it.
Yeah, so
I
what
could
is
be
it?
totally wrong, but
this is
What-
my point of view as someone who is just who's fairly new to it, but it's supposed to be a universe in utter chaos. It's not supposed to be like something that's fixed. It's just the priority is survival. So uh, basic morality, as we understand it, is thrown out the window for the sake of survival. And this is why a ton of people who want to change it miss the or make it more of a try to find solutions to the chaos, miss the point of it because that's the chaos is the appeal, and once you fix it it ruins everything.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's just like anytime I see like, for example, like what is this? The Officio Assassinorum, and then one of the specific temples is the Eversor Temple, where they just like they just take people and like fill them with drugs and make them go crazy, and then they freeze them, and then if the battlefield for a specific target, they'll just drop it and have it kill everything. Like it's like aggressively screwed up and super dark, and like you could just hear like random like tidbits of lore, like what is it, like corpse starch or something. Like there's just all this sort
Yeah.
of stuff that's just like so aggressively like bleak and dark, way more than even Game of Thrones. Like I feel like based
Yeah.
off of, like
Oh yeah,
some of the
no,
stuff
for sure.
some of the
Because
stuff
it's
I've
like
seen. So it
insane
kind of
over the top.
it kind of feels like, okay, if you like Warhammer 40k, so much, then I mean, there's like all these species committing genocide against each one another. Like it's just so crazy, and you literally have to teleport through hell to like interstellar travel. Like it's so crazy and like over the top, like dark. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Well, who's this? A dark fantasy game I've recently played is called Drakengard. Holy shit! It is batshit, schizo, insane, dark fantasy that we might never get again. Being serious. Check it out.
And what was the result? It was one of the most popular Netflix shows of the entire year, and it
Well, it's based off of one of the most popular anime and mangas to ever exist, so it's kind of expected.
Yeah.
got near universal praise from the fan base. And more than that, you can just feel the
I will say though that it's it's at least better than most Netflix anime adaptations. It's not Cowboy
It's
Bebop.
pretty. I
It's
would
not
say it's pretty
Death
good.
Note. Yeah.
Look, I don't know what you mean. Cowboy Bebop had the iconic line of "You know no true fear until you've what is it? Tasted the testicles of a man who killed your family or something." What the fuck? What the fuck like that?
Yeah. Cowboy Bebop. Yeah,
Uh,
that's an interesting adaptation. I've never seen it. Like I just heard so much bad stuff about it. I never watched it.
it is a show of all time for sure.
The difference in the experience you get from watching shows like that. The optimism, the positivity, the sense that there's a moral heart to the story that cares about more than just cheap shock value or cynical deconstruction. It's the same difference I felt watching A Night of the Seven Kingdoms compared to forcing myself through another episode of House of the Dragon. I was actually excited to be part of the adventure, interested to see where it was going next, and invested in the success of characters I actually liked and cared about. Imagine that, eh? And it does make me wonder if the
Could
modern
you pause?
fantasy
I
trend
mean,
that
were you
started.
not interested to see what happened next in House of the Dragon? Like, I feel like I'm very interested to see what happens next in House of
Yeah,
the Dragon.
I guess he wasn't. Yeah, that's the conclusion. Is I guess he wasn't. Which, hey, that's sure, man. We didn't need to like kind of make up a bunch of bullshit about it, but like
Hmm.
or like implicitly make up a bunch of bullshit about it by like saying, oh, it's a slog and it has no morals, like characters in it, and it has no relatability, and I hate everyone. I guess, sure, man, whatever.
With Game of Thrones might be coming to an end now. That maybe Hollywood is finally realising that fantasy should be an escape from the hang-ups and tedium of real life instead of a boring reflection of
Fantasy,
it. That
okay,
maybe
this
once
just
in a
annoys the
while,
fuck out of me when I
it's
have to say it,
okay.
no matter what's the case. Fantasy shouldn't be anything. Movies shouldn't be anything. Storytelling shouldn't be anything
Yeah.
other than good.
You can just
Yeah,
have
there's like an
something
infinite.
without
Sorry.
you can just have something without like a point to it. Just
Yeah.
yeah, just exploring a concept or an idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, well, there's like an infinite spectrum of like different sorts of stories you could tell, right? Like, even if you could say, oh, well, a story could never be good doing this, then, maybe 99 times out of 100, you're right. But then somebody comes up with like the one time, where it's actually like really good.
Mhm.
And then, it's, by definition, it's not like an absolute rule. So, especially, it's one thing to say like you're adapting a piece of work. Like, yeah, sure, there's probably constraints you have, but if it's an original story, then you, as John said, like, fantasy could be anything, so long as it maintains like some base level of the definition of the genre.
Yeah.
Hey, to have real heroes again. And maybe we need them now more than ever. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Okay, so that was
All right.
it. What did you guys think?
I will go first because I do actually need to hop off
Okay.
because I need to go to bed. But yeah, no, I liked it. Sorry, fucking hell, I liked it. Why did I say that? I liked the fact that he did address that Knight of Seven Kingdoms is good, and that he is correct about Hollywood. I didn't like anything else. I think that it wasn't a very well made point, and again, I'm just like repeating myself uh, at this point, but like you don't need to denigrate prior works and works that are of decent or to good quality in order to prop up something that you really like. You can just talk about why it's good. Why didn't we spend more time talking about what's good in the Night of the Seven Kingdoms? Like it reminds me of, like this is maybe harsh and it's not that bad, but it's like Anita Sarkeesian going,
Oh,
here's all the horrible things that women have to go through in some video games. Anyway, I'm gonna
And they're
talk
all
about why
misrepresented.
Mario is Anyway, I'm gonna talk about why Mario is sexist, and how in Hitman you are encouraged to kill strippers instead of talking about actual like games made by women or games that have women protagonists that are good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's annoying. It
Uh,
definitely feels as though this was a he sort I mean he was honest. He did admit that this was a rambling video. So I don't know if he had a
mm,
script for it or what, but I think he should have. Yeah, again, to be clear, like I said at the start, I don't hate Drinker or anything. Sometimes he gives takes I agree with, but other times he just misses, and this is one of them. You just
yeah,
shouldn't.
yeah.
There's just never really a good reason for you to dismiss an entire genre, like of storytelling.
yeah.
Yeah, I would
I'm
say,
gonna. Sorry, before you go, I'm just gonna sign off real quick. Just wanna hang out with you
okay.
guys. See you in a
Yeah, it
bit.
was fun, John. Yep. See ya.
Yeah,
All right,
boy.
but later.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was
So
just gonna
now it's just you
say,
and I.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I'm probably the biggest, maybe like I'm the probably the biggest fan of Drinker out of the three of us. I generally do like his content. I do believe that when it comes to calling out like a lot of the modern bullshit that comes out with certain stories or certain IP, he's pretty good at calling that out. However, in this specific case, there's always the possibility that I disagree with some of his specific takes. And, again, if you're gonna praise House of the Dragon for the most part, and then talk about now how it's a slog, how you're just not interested in any of the characters where it's going because everything is super bleak and you don't care for anybody. And, the only good thing the show had going for it, like he died. And yeah, sure, it's like a technical, like very fine technically, but I'm not invested in it at all. I do believe you have to, lay out your reasons as to why you've changed your mind. And I don't really believe he did that in this video, and that's kind of my my main issue with it, and as well as sort of dismissing an entire genre, as well as we pointed out simultaneously liking Warhammer 40K. I don't know, just a very messy video, very vibes based,
Yeah,
and it's kind of it's really difficult. Like if you were trying to mount a defense of this video, I think it'd just be too difficult because of how general so many of the claims are.
right. Yeah, I one more comment I want to address is from Joshua Taylor, 7443. What do you think of the Epstein files? Hmm. I my only thought as it pertains to this stream right now is that let's see, fuck, who was the one who said it? Hold on. Yeah, oh yeah, Kevin Spacey. He said that if there's going to be a Jeffrey Epstein biopic, he would like to play him. And I gotta say, this seems like appropriate casting. But yeah, I thought this was a very nice stream. Yeah, like this was your first ever live stream, right, Kelesto? So what'd you think?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was definitely a
Yeah.
lot of fun. I didn't know how like just like the dynamic of really how it worked. Obviously, I've seen live streams before. One of the things with me specifically is if I'm ever making a video, like I always have to script things out. Otherwise, if I try to speak off the cuff while I'm recording, it doesn't sound too great. But hopefully,
Mhm.
I wasn't. Everyone could hear me, and I wasn't stuttering all over the place.
Yeah. That's something I worry about too. But just like treat it like a normal conversation, and yeah, it works out well.
Yeah, very fun hanging out with you and John. It was nice.
Yeah. He's a good co-host. And yeah, if there's ever a video you wanna check out or think we should check out, just let me know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it'll depend because sometimes if a video pisses me off, I might just do a response more so than this type of live stream. But
Totally
yeah, it was
fair.
definitely a very different style to go through the video in real time.
Yeah, I haven't done one of these in a while. I actually had to do a couple of test streams to make sure that it worked. I always have problems related to audio for some reason. Well, we didn't have it for this stream, so that's pretty good. But yeah, we've been on for around 3 hours and a half, more than 3 hours and a half. So
Oh wow.
I think that's a record for me. But yeah, we're not quite at EFAP stream lengths, but we're getting
Oh
there.
no.
But yeah, if there's any thank you everyone for tuning in. And if there's a video you would like us to check out that you felt could best be responded to or reacted to live, just let us know. And with all that being said, I'm gonna sign off.